Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Radio Networks, Saturday, August 24th, 2019. This is episode 1620. Enjoy. Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by LastPass, the #1 most preferred password manager. Just remember your master password, and LastPass remembers the rest. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more. Oh my, hello, how are you? Well, hey. It's time. It's a bad sign when the show begins that weirdly. Yes, time for the Tech Guy Show. So what do we do on this show? We talk tech. My name is Leo Laporte, and this is the show where we talk about computers and the internet and home theater. Scott Wilkinson, it's his birthday, so I think he's taking the day off, but I'm not sure. We'll find out. Maybe he took last week off for his birthday. He's our home theater guy. We also talk about cars. We have a car guy. Photography. We have a photography guy. And then for everything else, I'm the guy. Smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. My phone number, if you want to talk with me, it's kind of, I think of this as a user group, sort of. So you're a participant, you're in, your questions, your suggestions, those are really a big part of the show. So 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number if you want to call in and make a suggestion or comment or ask a question. 888-827-5536. That's toll free, by the way, from the U.S. and in Canada. You can still call from somewhere else. It's just you'll have to use something like Skype out to call that toll-free number. So it still will be free. 8888 Ask Leo. The website, and there is one. Of course, what kind of tech guy would I be without a website? Actually, that's changed a little bit. Used to be you had to have a website. Nowadays, I don't know. You have to have an app, right? I don't have an app. I'm a little behind the times. We do have a website, techguylabs.com, and there's no sign up for that. It's free. There's no subscription. Every show lives there, all 1,620 of them. Audio and video from those shows, plus the text of the questions and the answers and the suggestions and the topics, and links too. So you don't have to write anything down. I guess that's my point. It's all there for you. techguylabs.com. There's also a chat room. And because it's a live show, that's kind of a cool part of it, is people can go into the chat room and backtalk me. And believe me, they do. It's moderated, so it's family-friendly backtalk. It's usually subtle microaggressions. And they're more than welcome. Just go to irc.twit.tv. Twit's my podcast network, so the podcast network hosts the chat. irc.twit.tv. If this weren't radio, I would show you this beautiful shimmery thing I have in my hand. Isn't that pretty? You can't see it, but I'll describe it. It's the back of a phone with this kind of rainbowy, shimmery back. That's the new Samsung Galaxy Note 10. It came this week. It's a nice phone. It's a rather large phone, 6.8 inches. This is the 10 Plus, 6.8 inches. But the neat thing about modern phones, I would say, and some have said, this is kind of the platonic ideal of a modern smartphone. It's like an idealized smartphone. Because there's no bezels, the screen goes all the way to the edge, top and bottom, as well as left and right. They're able to get 6.8 inches in a size that's really not much bigger, just a little teeny-weeny bit bigger than smaller phones. You wouldn't want it if you had little hands, but the thing is, as these devices, I shouldn't call them phones, as these smart devices become our primary form of computing, you want a bigger screen. Bigger is better. So, in fact, this is more like a full-size computer than any other smartphone. I'll give you a couple of the things that differ. First of all, though, I'll give you a quick tour. It definitely is a nice screen. Samsung makes the best screens. And the people who do these things, DisplayMate, have rated this, as is often the case, the best screen we've ever seen. 'Tis an awesome screen. It does have a hole punch. It doesn't have a notch. But it has a little hole at the top because you got to have a front-facing camera. So it's got a little hole at the top. but it's so small that I think, it's in the status bar that up at the top there, so where the notifications go. So I think that's about as good as it needs to be to get out of the way. The rest of the screen is just beautiful. And again, so there's the left and right bezels. There's pretty much nothing there. Samsung's been really good about these curved glass screens that go all the way over the edge. But even the top and the bottom, the forehead and the chin are completely minimal. Speakers on the bottom, that's why. Oh, wait a minute, no headphone jack. Sorry, Samsung finally has followed the trend. I know, I'm sad. The headphone jack is the most used port on any phone. It is. Research says, but we all have wireless, headphones. I guess we don't need a headphone jack. It comes in the box it's got Type-C charging. It comes with a Type-C connector. Comes with a 25-watt charger, which charges it really fast. And Samsung makes a 45-watt charger, which they say fills up this giant battery, fills it up in an hour. And by the way, it is a giant battery, 4,300 milliamp hours, which it needs because it's powering a pretty darn big screen. I think AnandTech did their battery tests, and they got almost 12 hours of nonstop web browsing on it, which means it'll get you through the day. More than 12 hours. That's nonstop on-screen time. Should get more than get you through the day. That's pretty good. The thing these days is probably most important for people for phones is the camera. This is not much different than the S10 Plus, which I also have. It's a 3-lens system, which I really like. I think Apple's going to adopt that this year as well. I should point this out, that this phone is out now at kind of an inopportune time because the iPhone comes out in 2 weeks, the iPhone 11 or whatever Apple calls it. And let's not forget Google's Pixel 4. Google still, in fact, almost everybody agrees, as good as these cameras are on these new phones, Google's still the winner when it comes to stills. That Google, with one lens, that Google Pixel XL, Pixel 3 XL, still the best camera. And the 4 is coming out, which should be even better. So, honestly, it's a fine camera. It's not a bad camera. There's nothing wrong with the camera. So don't, I love having 3 lenses. That means with 3 lenses, I can get a telephoto and a medium and a very wide angle. It's kind of fun to play with the wide angle. I really actually enjoyed the wide angle of this. Great shots. So excellent camera. It has also, it remains to be seen whether Samsung will do anything with this, but it has also basically a LiDAR device, a LiDAR camera. They call it time of flight, that measures 3D objects. It bounces radar off of them, measures the time it takes to get the radar signal back on a variety of points, and is able to make a 3D image out of that. And so there's software in here to create a 3D model out of any object. It also can do some interesting photographic effects. So having that's kind of interesting. Google's going to do that too. They call it Soli. That's going to be in the Google Pixel 4 phone. Apple has it in the front-facing camera, but not the back-facing camera. It also makes it really good for things like scanning documents, because it can fix the kind of the distortion sometimes you get from a camera phone. But what makes this really most interesting, and has always been the case with the Samsung Notes, the stylus. It has a little pen inside of it with which you can create notes. You can create notes even if the phone is turned off. That's kind of fun. It does handwriting. And what's interesting, it does a really good job of turning handwriting into text, which I think means, I'm just writing a little note to myself right now, which means you can it's big enough that you can take notes, handwritten notes, at a meeting or something, and then turn it into text, which is kind of wild. And it does a very good job, even with my awful handwriting. It's almost perfect. In fact, most of the time it is perfect. So that's kind of cool. It also, and this is an interesting use. I don't know how, a lot of times they put stuff in these phones that show well on the demo and it's cool, but nobody ever uses. There's a thing called Samsung DeX, which allows you to turn this into a desktop computer. You hook it up to a computer monitor with a special cable, keyboard and mouse, and then you've got a little kind of primitive operating system with word processing and so forth. But a lot of times that means you have to have a keyboard, mouse, and monitors lying around wherever you go. That's not that convenient. So now, and it's only available on the Note 10 and 10 Plus currently. They haven't done it. They haven't backported their other stuff. But now I can go up to a Mac or a Windows machine. Doesn't work all that well on a Mac, but works great on a Windows machine. Plug in the Type-C cable, and suddenly I see my phone on the desktop. Windows is running, but so is my phone's desktop. I can copy files to and from. If I take a picture on the phone, it shows up on the computer. I think that's kind of interesting. You might put the documents you always work on, you might just keep them on the phone, and then when you get to work or home or whatever, you just plug it in and there it is. What do you think of that? Isn't that kind of interesting? In the words of Mr. Spock, I find that fascinating. Here's the less fascinating news. It's $1,100 for the Note 10 Plus. Yikes. It can come with 12 gigs of RAM and 12 gigs of storage. That'll set you back $1,200. That's the one I got. Of course, because I want more of everything. If you're not quite so loaded, you might look at the less expensive Note 10, but it doesn't have the big battery. It's missing a few of the features. Honestly, unless you're a Note fan, which I am, and I've had every Galaxy Note since Samsung started the line 8 years ago. If you're not a Note fan and you don't need that stylus, I think the Note's probably not for you. And what I'm going to be more interested in, at least for photography, is Google's new phone, which comes out probably in October, the Pixel 4. The iPhone, which comes out next month, probably still be the video king. They're the best in video. But I have to, I like this Note 10 Plus. I think they did a nice job. It's just pricey and special. It's a specialty item. How about that? There's my review, just for you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. He's playing with his handwriting recognition. This is pretty amazing. There are some reasons you would want a stylus, I have to say, on a phone. For instance, there's a video editing program Samsung bundles with this new Note 10 Plus. And it's because they know you have a stylus, they can have really teeny-weeny controls. So, and, you can use it on the phone. So that's cool. That's a nice thing. What are you laughing at?
I don't think I'm prepared because I didn't hear my song.
Well, I think he played it, but I just was talking the whole time.
It.
Right, Big Pee-wee? And then he stuck some other stuff in there.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I think I heard the Red Hot Chili Peppers instead.
She's the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer. Hello, Kimmy.
Good morning. Oh,
there she is. Okay, now we know. Now we know it's her.
Now I know.
I didn't know it was her at first.
Well,
I forgot.
Go with that because next week you're going to have somebody different, and the next weekend you're going to have somebody different.
Where are you going?
Bali.
Bali?
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yeah.
How exciting. That's like far, far away.
I'm not looking forward to the flight portion of it.
Bali High. I think, though, if you get a good price on the airfare, Bali is fairly, unless you stay with these fancy resorts.
Oh, no. This is going to be like a budget trip.
It's fairly inexpensive, I hear.
The flight didn't cost much, so it won't be comfortable. I know that already. But, I hear it's pretty cheap over there.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to have fun.
I'm going to have a blast.
And you're going to come back brown as a berry.
Probably so.
Nice. Good. Well, have a great vacay.
I will.
So this is it, huh? This is your short timer.
Today and tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Okay. Do you are an Android or an iPhone? I can't remember. iPhone.
Yeah.
So are you gonna be interested in what Apple announces when it'll be when you get back?
No, I'm not going to be interested because I'm going to be paying for this for the next 18 months. So I don't.
So it was
really
iPhone 11 or Bali? I'd take Bali. Absolutely.
No, I just bought this in November last year. I'm not you, so I don't need to buy a new phone.
Honestly,
every
I don't
time
even
they
want to
come.
be me. This is a very expensive time of year for me.
But I really thought the rainbow was pretty on the screen. I know that the radio listeners can't see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so it's the
but
shimmer. It's the shimmer
like a
back.
hologram almost. It's beautiful.
It's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
really
as soon as you put it in a case, forget it.
yeah,
It's
then you're
over.
not going to see it anyway.
Yeah,
Unless you get
and by the way, look what a fingerprint magnet
smudgy.
is. Yeah. So, oh well. So, Kimmy.
Do you have time for a call?
I have time
or
for a call.
do you just have to blow it
No,
off?
no.
Okay, so Art in Thousand Oaks has a question for you about transferring music from vinyl to a computer.
Okay. I always have time for Art in Thousand Oaks. Thanks, Kim. Hi, Art.
Hey, good morning, Leo. How you doing?
I am great. How are you?
Well, doing okay, except I can't make this thing work.
What thing are you using?
I'm using a Sony, Sony PSLX 300 USB turntable,
Okay.
and I've got it plugged into my iMac.
This is really the easiest way now to do what you want to do, which is take a vinyl record and digitize it, is to use a USB turntable. Because what happens is you play it just like it looks like a regular record player. It is. In fact, you could hook it up to your stereo, but it also has a USB port. Does it say it works with Macs? That would be problem number one.
Oh, that's the thing I'm wondering. It says operating systems, and it lists all Windows, no Mac.
Don't. That's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So you may not need. So USB is pretty standard, and a USB audio interface is pretty standard. The Apple should handle that without a problem. So I think what you probably want to do is get some software. What software are you using?
Well, just whatever was in the...
On the Mac? So here's the first thing you want to do is you open the sound preference pane. The sounds preference pane is how you choose inputs as well as outputs. So you use it to choose your speakers or your headphones or whatever, but you also use it to say, here's the sound where the sound's coming from, and see if you see that Sony turntable.
Okay.
If you do, then all you have to do is get some software and tell the software, get your input from here. I recommend and use a program called Amadeus that's inexpensive and does a great job. But I think that's the first step. Normally, a USB audio interface doesn't need any drivers for a Mac. The Mac already understands that. So are you in front of it now?
Yes.
Have you opened the sounds preference pane?
I'm looking in the system preferences.
Yep, and there'll be one called sounds.
And where are we? Sound. There it is. Okay.
Click it. It's sound singular.
Headphones.
Yeah. Click the input button, the far right one,
Okay.
and see if you see a Sony turntable.
No.
Okay. Unplug and so turn on the turntable, plug it in again. It has to be plugged in for you to see it.
Okay.
So turn it off, turn it on, unplug it, turn it off, turn it on, and then plug it in again into the USB port.
Okay, it's back on the USB, and still nothing.
Yeah, so you see internal microphone, but you don't see...
Phone line in USB audio codec.
There you go. Try that one. It may not identify as a PSLX 30. It may just say USB audio codec. That's what you're doing.
Okay.
Now, what you can do, you'll see there's a little sound meter below it.
Right.
If you put a record on, just see if that sound meter moves.
All right.
If it does, then you're getting audio from the turntable.
Let's see what it does here.
And then let's hope so. If not, there is another more complicated thing you can do with MIDI. But I think this should work. You've got a USB.
Oh, okay. It's the input level is moving.
Jiggling along with Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
All right, good. So now all you need is something to record. You can use GarageBand. That's free. But it has a limit in the amount of sound. And yeah, I mean, actually, that's probably fine for editing. There's a free one called Audacity. But my favorite, there's a couple I use for professional work on the Macintosh. Amadeus Pro, like Mozart. I think that's $40. And then there's one called Twisted Wave. That's the one I use for audio editing. So I think that you're gonna want to do some editing, because probably what you'll do is just put on the record, play it all the way through, and then chop it up. So
just
select the song and chop it up, and you can also use that to take pops and clicks out and equalize it and do other stuff. So any program, but when you use that program, you'll have to say get the input from the USB input, and you changing the input on sound might be enough, because the software should just go by what the sound control panel or system preference panel says.
But I can't go directly into iTunes.
iTunes does not record. You need something to record.
Okay, so I'll use GarageBand. Then.
Yeah, GarageBand will work, and then chop it up. Then you'll save it in GarageBand. You'll save it as a WAV, probably the best, or an MP3, and then open iTunes and import that file, and it'll import into its native format. You can actually tell it how to convert. Scott Wilkinson, our home theater hero. Happy birthday, Scott. You celebrated last week, took the week off, which was good.
Yep.
But you're back.
Definitely.
Yep.
Now I'm back, ready to plunge back into the home theater pool.
Your 40th year. So exciting. So what?
Would that it were so.
Oh, I know. No matter how old you get, you still feel like you're 27. That's what's really weird.
I know. Totally weird.
It's like your mind doesn't catch up with your body.
That's
so
right.
What do you want to talk about today? I dealer's choice, because I take over your segment way too often.
Well, thank you. You know what? I wanted to talk a little bit about an email I got from our very own James DeRuvo.
Oh, he writes the show notes for us each and every week.
Each and every week. He's probably writing down what we're saying this very moment.
Hello, James. Hi.
And he wrote me an email.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? I've got a Vizio TV, and it looks like some of the LEDs behind the screen are stuck on. They're on almost all the time, even, in dark scenes or whatever. And he said, is it worth fixing? And I said, probably not. If it bugs you, I'm afraid you're going to have to get another TV. Well, you won't have to, but it would probably be less expensive to. And it got me thinking.
Before you go any farther on that, I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
First of all, the LEDs are always on. They don't get stuck. What's stuck is the LCD shutter. It's stuck open.
Well, that's not entirely true, because Vizio TVs have what's called local dimming.
Oh.
Which means that the LEDs behind dark parts of an image will, in fact, dim. They won't go off completely.
So James is in the chat room. He says it's on some regularly lit scenes. They're not stuck. They're brighter. So there is something called a stuck pixel, which is a shutter that doesn't close.
Correct.
And then it looks like a white dot that's on the screen all the time.
But it's a tiny white dot.
Yeah.
James
it's the
sent
size
me
of a
some
pixel.
photos. Yeah, exactly.
So this is like a bright spot underneath the screen.
Correct.
So
and
the reason I stopped you is because sometimes with the stuck pixel, I don't recommend this, but you can look on YouTube. You can sometimes unstick a stuck pixel very carefully with a soft cloth, rubbing that area. But
I've heard of that too. I've never actually done it myself.
Wouldn't. Yeah, and I don't want to be responsible if you do it, and it doesn't, and it ruins the screen.
Make the matter worse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So only do it if you say, "Well, I'm going to throw out this TV," or if it doesn't get fixed, then maybe it'd be worth it.
Might as well try it. Yeah,
last ditch attempt. Oh, but this is something different. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of this issue. So the backlight is stuck on, or at its highest brightness.
Correct. The backlight is stuck on.
So there's not much you can do about that.
No, you could get it fixed, but it would cost more than buying a new TV. TVs are so inexpensive, especially Vizios.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about TV longevity. I mean, you probably remember at my advanced age, now that I've just had a birthday, I remember when my parents had a TV for 10, 15 years. My grandparents had a TV for 10 or 15 years. One of those big giant consoles. You remember those?
Yeah.
That has like a 20-inch TV, but also a record player and a stereo.
Yeah.
All built into a giant piece of furniture. And these things lasted forever. And TVs these days don't. And it's really it's unfortunate. I found an article on a place called Tom's Guide. You might know that.
Oh, I love
website.
Tom's Guide. In fact, I know
Tom's
the editor
Guide. It's
there.
great. Yeah. And he's whoever wrote this article said that TVs don't last as long, and he's claiming that companies make them so that they don't last as long. Why? Because they want you to upgrade. They make it too expensive to repair, and so I'll just upgrade. Then there's the issue of the improvement of technology. Black and white TV was introduced in the 30s, I believe, 40s, early 40s. Color TV came in the 60s, so that's at least 20 years. And then from color TV to HD TV was like 40 years. HD TV didn't really come out until digital TV until 2000 or so. So we had a long time of a static technology, color, NTSC, standard definition television. But once we had digital TV and high definition and LCD TVs and plasma TVs and now OLED TVs, the pace of technological advance has increased, as it does in all technologies, right? And so the TV, we're now replacing our TVs more often than our parents did or our grandparents did. And the question is, have manufacturers built in obsolescence? Have they made it so that they don't last as long as they used to because they want you to buy a new TV? And
I think actually what's really happened is that TVs are now computers.
Well, that's true.
So in the past, there was a lot of analog circuitry. It was all analog circuitry.
Right. It was all analog
circuitry. And now it's really built just like your laptop or desktop PC.
Yep.
And so the way computers are built, they're pretty modular. This is so they can be assembled. The components.
And repaired.
The components are tiny. These transistors, the capacitors, the chips. And they're not put on a board by hand. They're put on the board by robots and assembled into modules, which then humans can assemble. And so, honestly, a computer repair and TV repair are very similar. The way they get fixed is you replace an entire module, but that costs a lot. Gone is the day where
it's the screen.
Yeah, gone is the day where a technician with a soldering iron can go in and fix it.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it's the same with your car. No shade tree mechanic can tune up your car anymore. It's a computer on wheels. So this is both the up and the downside of the digital era. The upside is this stuff has gotten much less expensive because it's much less expensive to manufacture.
And better quality.
Much more reliable. Much more reliable. But when it fails...
for a certain period of time.
But when it fails... Solid state's pretty reliable. If it fails...
True.
It's going to be a little more expensive to fix it. And it may even, and this is the real equation, it may even be cheaper not to fix it and replace it, which is a shame.
Right.
Because then there's a lot in the landfill.
Right. Sadly so. That's exactly right. But it is unfortunate, but true that, we're replacing these TVs more quickly, over a shorter period of time.
Yeah, the good news is the technology, as you say, is getting better fast. So there might be a benefit.
Right. And it might very well be. We went from standard definition to high definition to now ultra high definition. In a couple of years, we might start seeing 8K. I mean, we can buy an 8K TV now. There isn't anything to watch on it in 8K.
Right.
But they upscale 4K and lower to 8K and works very well. So it just struck me that it made me remember, my parents and my grandparents had TVs for decades.
And people still have that sense, in their mind. Oh, a TV should last a decade.
Right. It won't.
No more than your laptop should last a decade.
Exactly right.
Yeah. On the other hand,
sad to say,
it's $1,000. When you spend $1,000 on something, you kind of hope it will.
You want it to last for a while.
I mean, I can understand that, James.
Exactly.
So there's no easy fix then for a stuck LED.
No, afraid not. It's in the screen. Yeah. If it were a power supply, that'd be one thing.
Right.
But stuck LEDs in the behind the screen, that's going to be too expensive.
Scott Wilkinson, you'll find him here every week, except for his birthday week, and at techhive.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come right after this.
It's the honeydew list. Hey, everybody. Nice to see you. I enjoyed my week off. We were in lovely Palm Springs where it was 115 degrees. But that was great. That's what we wanted. That's exactly what we wanted. That's exactly what we got. we go to the Palm Springs in the summer in large part because such high heat forces us to slow way down. You can't go out and do a lot of stuff. Or at least we can't. So we read a lot. We slept a lot. We went out at night, went out to dinner, and went out prowling around, and that was great. In Palm Springs, they have a street fair every Thursday night, and during the summer, we go to that and visit a lot of interesting people, get some good food, see some really nice art and crafts. So that's what we did, and we had a great time. Let's see here. Somebody was asking me, Beatmaster here, and asking Mike Heiss as well. Hey, Mike, good to see you here. Taking any bets Samsung making OLED TVs? Read some rumors not long ago. I would bet not. I think they are going to focus on micro LED, which is this technology where instead of either an LCD with light passing through it or OLED emitting its own light, micro LED emits its own light too, but using microscopic LEDs rather than OLED material. And I think they're going to focus on that rather than OLED TVs. Now, somebody here said that Paige had a question. Mike Heiss, need to check, but CTA typically says TV life is about 9 to 11 years. People don't throw them out; they downroom them. Put them in the put the big one in the den, put the big one from the den in the bedroom, buy a new one for the main room, blah blah blah. That's right. Get rid of the oldest one. I have seen that as a something too. My impression is that TVs really, they are maybe supposed to last 9 to 11 years, say 10 years, but I tend to think that they will last only more like 5 years, typically. As James Deruo's TV did. It was about 5 years old, as I recall. James, have I got that right? Untoward, is edge lit better? No, edge lit is not as good. Perhaps better in the sense that you wouldn't have this particular problem that James had, which is a stuck-on light behind the screen, which were an LED. If you had a stuck-on light, it would still be funky, but it wouldn't maybe be as bad. But when it's working properly, full array local dimming is far better, in my opinion, than edge lit. Edge lit has poor uniformity. So if you're looking at a space scene, it's all black, but some of the parts of the space scene look a little lighter than other parts, and so it's not very convincing. Full array local dimming is much better in that regard. So let's see. Thank you, Mick. I sure appreciate that. Let's see. UJ says, so you think Samsung won't utilize emissive QLED? They might, but that technology is not going to be in a TV for quite a few years.
The Tech Guy Podcast brought to you, as it often is, by our good friends at LastPass. You know, every time I do the show, I encourage people to take a look at protecting themselves online with LastPass. LastPass is the #1 preferred password manager, the one that locks up all your passwords. You no longer, when you create a password, it'll do it for you. It'll make it long, it'll make it strong and completely unmemorable, but that's okay. LastPass will remember all your passwords for you. All you have to remember is your master password. Make that long, strong, memorize it, and you're golden. It's job one for security. You know that. I've talked about it for a long time, and I hope you're doing it. But now I want to talk about LastPass at work, where it's also #1. LastPass Enterprise, that's what we use here. And LastPass has just expanded their solutions for business, and I am really excited. We don't have it yet, but I can't wait. This is their brand new business lineup, and these features are going to do something almost impossible. They're going to make you more secure and make your employees happier. Make it easier for them. That's normally, usually that trade-off I talk about all the time between convenience and security. In this case, you get both. So let me tell you about what they've got. The LastPass Enterprise, which is their business password manager, now has single sign-on, which is easily the most secure and best way to do this. Single sign-on, no password, more security. 1,200 plus SAML integrated apps are available now, more coming all the time. LastPass has a getting started guide you can give your employees so that you don't have to train them. It's very easy to get up and running. Single sign-on is, in many respects, I think, the future of logins. But they also have multi-factor authentication. We talk about that all the time. Not two-factor, multi-factor. They've always had two-factor, but now LastPass is doing even more, using biometrics, whether it's your face, your fingerprint, plus contextual factors, your IP address, your location information. And that is a huge way to very easily verify that a user is a user and is the authorized user of this account. That's fantastic. This way they know you are who you say you are. And for admins, for the IT department, for Russell over here, he's going to love it because the dashboard makes it very easy for them to see who's using what apps, how often, the length of time, where people are having trouble getting in. You have complete control, password resets, and things like that. So they call it LastPass Identity. It's a combination of LastPass Enterprise and LastPass Multi-Factor Authentication. And it gives you everything you need to make it both easier for your employees and more secure for you, from single sign-on and password management to adaptive authentication. And IT gets granular control, and your users get frictionless access, which is what they want, without compromising security. I'm so excited about this. LastPass, bridging the gap between passwords and identity by making access and authentication simple and secure for both IT and end users. Didn't think that was possible, but it is. Join the thousands of businesses like mine that have signed up for LastPass and are loving it and trusting it. I've been using them for more than a decade now. It's all I'll use. LastPass.com/twit. Find out how they can help you. LastPass.com/twit. And by the way, we're really thrilled. LastPass has agreed to sponsor our new show that we're just launching this week, Ask the Tech Guy, through the end of the year. Thank you, LastPass. You rock. Yeah. You can thank LastPass back by going to LastPass.com/twit. Now on with the show. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. On we go with the show to Brett in Fort Worth, Texas, where the West begins. Hello, Brett.
Hello, Leo.
Welcome.
You got me with something in my mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always try to get you in the most compromised situation possible. So
yeah,
I apologize.
So what my situation is I've had iVPN as my VPN provider all last year and this year.
Good.
And I'm switching over to ExpressVPN.
Our fine sponsor. I thank you.
Yeah. But in my home, I have a lot of different things that I can access, like my home automation system from my cell phone, my sprinkler controller from my cell phone, my Synology surveillance station from my cell phone. But all of a sudden, and I haven't had any problem doing that with my phone until now that I'm using the ExpressVPN. So I've been working with the ExpressVPN support group, and I've kind of come to the point where they're just saying you can't do it. And
so iVPN worked?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And, so the theory, or the idea is with a VPN is I'm tunneling out on my own little network until I pop out on
in public
a server somewhere. Right.
Yep.
And so once I pop out, I should be able to go to my domain name, which is how I get back into my LAN. And I would figure that would always work.
Well, wait a minute. Slow down, because you're no longer on your network. Let's say you're popping out on the VPN server in Dallas.
Okay.
You're, from the point of view of everybody you're talking to, you're not coming out of your house. You're coming out of Dallas.
Sure.
So you're no longer on your local area network unless you have set up your domain names to have public-facing internet. You know, you have to buy a domain name and register it and do the DNS.
Yep, and it does.
Okay.
So when I'm
then the key on this, for this to work, is you have to have a domain name. Let's say it's brett'siotdevice.com.
Yeah.
And you've registered that, and you have to tell the domain name your personal IP address. Now, one of the problems with this is that internet service providers, home internet service providers, often don't guarantee what they call a static address. Your address may change. Do you have a static address?
No, but I do have it mapped to DNS.
You're using Dyn DNS?
Yeah, and I've again, if I turn off the ExpressVPN on my phone, I can access my house anywhere in the world.
Okay, so the DNS works properly. You type in, brett'siotdevice.com, and you've port forwarded it appropriately. That's the other thing. Your router at home, because you're coming in on your ISP, your single public IP address that's provided to you by the ISP, but at that point it needs to be routed to whatever device you want to talk to. And you've set that up on your router properly, yeah?
Yes.
In fact, we know, because if you don't use ExpressVPN, it works. So there's something about going into the VPN and coming out of this server that's not working. Perhaps, among other things, devices can have security that says if you don't come from my IP address, you could be coming from China or Russia. So I'm going to block, and I actually do this on my NAS. I only allow certain IP addresses to access my NAS, chiefly my home address and my work address. So make sure you don't have any security like that going on, because remember, all of a sudden now you're on a different IP address, and an unpredictable one at that.
Yeah.
All right. So what does ExpressVPN say?
Well, they had me change protocols, and so I went.
They did a lot of troubleshooting, but did they come up with a theory about why it wouldn't work?
No, the last email I got from them says that you won't really be able to remotely access your.
That's funny, because when you're in the outside world, if you're over at a coffee shop, you can go to your devices, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That public address works.
Yeah, I mean it's. I've been able to.
I wonder if you use go to a coffee shop, ExpressVPN your phone or your laptop, and then try to access your network.
Okay.
And if that works, then we've got some sort of weird loop situation going on that I'm not sure I completely understand. But that would be one thing. I see no reason why that wouldn't work, by the way. You should be able to go to a Starbucks and then turn on ExpressVPN or any VPN and surf to brett'siotdevice.com, and you should be able to get in. And if you can, then, the problem isn't ExpressVPN exactly. It's something about coming from inside the house to the outside world and then back into the house. That's confusing something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
That is a strange and a very kind of oddball configuration. Honestly, maybe don't use ExpressVPN. What's the point of using ExpressVPN in that case? Because if you're inside your LAN, connecting to devices inside your LAN, you don't even have to visit the public internet at all.
No, that's right. And it's just that...
So there's no point in having that VPN. You're not exiting.
Right. It's just that when I do exit, when I walk outside my Wi-Fi and I pick up my phone, I want to see what's going on my home automation system or whatever, I don't want to have to...
Right. Well, that's what I'm wondering. So you're saying if I go out and I am no longer on my home network, and I have ExpressVPN on my phone, I can't go to my home network anymore.
I haven't tried being outside my home.
So that's the only time you need the VPN. When you're inside your home, you're not exiting. You're not on the public net. The ISP can't see what you're doing. No one can see what you're doing. Only those inside your LAN, which is you. Presumably, you don't have any bad guys in there.
The way I've got that app set up is even when I'm inside the home, it always goes to my domain name. So it's always looking outside and then coming back in.
That's the issue. And why don't we fix? That's probably the issue. But I'm wondering if it's a security setting on one of these devices, because that starts to look odd. That starts to look, you're presenting as yourself, but you're not coming from where you should be coming from.
Yeah.
I wonder why it worked with your previous VPN, and it does. So, in all honesty, and I don't understand what's going on, so I don't know. But it could be that your previous VPN was not secure, and that ExpressVPN is secure, and as a result, you're getting a problem that you didn't have. But the only reason you didn't have it with the prior VPN is because it wasn't really doing what it was supposed to do. I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with IVPN, but yeah. There's something going on. I'm sure there's some smart network people in the chat room. We actually have Cheryl, who's a smart network person, in the studio. So I'm gonna get our brain trust to think about, why would that be? Why would it be when you're using ExpressVPN inside your house, surfing to your public domain name? We'll use brett'siotdevice.com as an example, which should then map to your internal, your public IP address, and then be routed to your internal thing. Why does that not work? It just doesn't come up. You don't see anything?
No, it spins the app.
So we got to figure that out. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Does so here's one theory. VPN recognize you're trying to access your own IP. This is so complicated. I don't know if I can even think about what's going on here. Let's just stay tuned. Somebody will come up with something.
Hey, Leo, I heard that you're thinking about going to Petra in Jordan.
I am in October. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been?
It's absolutely beautiful.
I can't wait. Somebody told me, whatever you do, though, don't take the carriage ride.
Well, it looks neat, but I never took it. I walked.
Yeah, so people told me it's not all it's cracked up to be.
But it's a lot of walking.
I know it's a lot of walking. We'll wear our comfy shoes. So here's a really interesting, and I think perhaps actually this is the issue. Twisted Mister is very smart on networking. Many firewalls will see outbound traffic coming back, outbound then coming in as a security breach, and block it. His Zycel does that. IVPN has a setting that is allow LAN traffic when IVPN firewall is enabled. That you probably had turned on. ExpressVPN may not have such a setting. So that is an interesting conundrum. Yeah. Sounds like IVPN maybe had better configuration settings for the kind of thing you were doing. Not that it was less secure, but they clearly thought about exactly what you're doing. Allow LAN traffic when IVPN firewall is enabled, and allow multicast when LAN traffic is allowed. This sounds like they had some settings that maybe... There is also an ExpressVPN support page, which Scooter X has found, that we will post at the chat room, rather in the web page, which is cannot access intranet, printer, or shared folders on local area network. This sounds like exactly the thing. It might be because network lock is enabled. It's a feature in ExpressVPN to protect internet privacy. It's ExpressVPN's internet kill switch. So look for network lock.
I know what you're talking about. The help desk referred to that, but that apparently is not on the iOS app, that setting. You can do it on Windows.
It says Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mac solution. So, but look at that tech note. We'll put a link in the show notes, or just Google ExpressVPN can't access intranet.
Okay.
Because this is exactly the symptom. So this network lock is the culprit. It also says there's also a checkbox, enable network lock and allow access to local network devices such as network shares or printers. This sounds like exactly the issue. There's also split tunneling that you can turn on. I think this sounds like this could be related. And yeah, maybe you can't turn it off on iOS. That may be the issue. I don't know. But we'll put that in the show notes, or Google ExpressVPN can't access intranet.
Hey, Leo, are there pros and cons about putting the VPN on my router as opposed to my individual computers?
Well, the only con is you can't turn it off on a per computer basis. The advantage is you're always protected. So a lot of routers do have VPN capability, outbound VPN capability, which is nice. My Eero does that. My Orbi, I think, has that. So, and that would be a lot easier. You don't even have to think about it then. You're just protected.
Okie dokie.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Take care.
Have fun in Petra.
Oh, thanks for the tips. All right. Take care. All right, Scott. Sorry about the delay.
Hey, no problem.
All yours.
So Petra, that's one of my bucket list places to
Oh,
go.
definitely a bucket list. We're going to Jerusalem, Athens, Jerusalem. Spend a day, two or 3 days in Jerusalem. Petra, the Valley of the Kings in Luxor.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really good trip. I'm really excited. Really,
Yeah,
excited.
no
And then
kidding.
we end up in Dubai. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's going to be quite the trip.
Quite a trip. And actually the Suez Canal is one of my bucket list things too. We're going to transit the Suez Canal, which takes all day. It's a big canal.
Aren't you even the least bit nervous being in that part of the world?
Oh, heck no. What could possibly go wrong? I'll tell you how unnervous we are. We booked a helicopter ride over Jerusalem.
Oh, man.
But I'm told that those Scud missiles really aren't very reliable. So,
quick question about VPNs. I have a Airport Express or an Airport Ultimate, or I don't know what it's called. Does that have VPN capability built in?
And Apple no longer supports those. Well, they're still putting out patches, but they've stopped selling those. So at some point, you're going to want to get a new router for sure.
Yeah, and your recommendation for that is
if you don't have a large enough square footage that makes something like the Eero needed, like a mesh system like the Eero needed. I really like the Eero and the Orbi. That's what we use at home. Then just get an ASUS. Anything less than 2,000 square feet, a single Wi-Fi access point is sufficient. And
we're at about 2,100. So
yeah, you might benefit from getting an Eero. If you have dead spots, EERO, or ORBI, Orbi. If you have dead spots,
is that the product from Eero?
No, Orbi is from
Netgear.
Company? Orbi's from Netgear. Okay. Eero's its own company.
Right.
And then
so either one of those.
One advantage the Orbi has is they have an outdoor base station. So if you wanted to be out by the pool, you could do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, but otherwise the ASUS routers are really good, really excellent.
And they all support VPN. You have to you sign up for a VPN?
So it's a little different on you get so Eero has a $99 a month plan called Eero Plus. And Eero Plus includes a lot of stuff, including a VPN, but also includes 1Password is included. You get filtering against malware. They call it threat scan. You get family safe browsing. You get ad blocking. That's all built in. You get encrypt.me VPN, and you get Malwarebytes. All of that comes with a $99 a year thing. And actually, I recommend it. I use it, and
it's called Eero
Plus. When you get the Eero, you'll get a year free of Eero Plus, and then you'll want to renew that every year.
Right, and that gives you VPN.
That gives you all that stuff, yeah.
Ad blocking.
Yeah.
Et cetera.
And a password manager.
Oh yeah, password manager.
Yeah. So it's a good deal, and the ad blocking is great. But the most important thing that really everybody should have is a threat protection. So like if you get an email with ransomware in the attachment, it'll just block it. And honestly, everybody needs that. That's huge.
Okay. And are there differences between different VPNs? I mean, are some better than others?
Yes, absolutely. So I don't actually use a VPN most of the time. The VPN is I call it kicking the can down the road. So the VPN does two things. Your internet service provider, whether it's your cell phone company or your ISP at home, sees everywhere you go. And in some cases, they will sell that information for marketing, and in some cases, they will inject ads. There are ISPs that will inject ads into your traffic. A VPN prevents both of those things. It also protects you from somebody sniffing your traffic and attempting to hack you. The good news is nowadays, almost everywhere you go is encrypted. So the early problem was, your email passwords going through the air in the clear. Anybody could easily steal it. That's no longer the case. If you go to Amazon, if you go to Gmail, all of that's encrypted. So the benefit of a VPN there is less. But the VPN does keep somebody from kind of seeing what you're doing and attempting to hack you. If somebody can get on your Wi-Fi, they're on your network, and so a VPN protects you there. But that's why at home it's of less value at home. It's more valuable on the road, honestly. And I don't even use it on the road because I'm lazy.
All right. Well, we've been thinking about
Eero's great. I highly recommend it. And
all right.
You probably only need one beacon, so you get the base station and one beacon. If you have dead spots in the house, places where the internet's not as good, that's a good choice.
So, I mean, with this Apple, I've been able to get Wi-Fi no problem at any place in my house. So,
oh well, you're probably all right then. You don't
probably all right.
You could use the ASUS. And to answer Mike Heiss's question, you get an encrypt.me account, which works everywhere, not just when you're using the Eero. Well, we've used up your time. Thank you very much, Scott.
No problem. Thank you for helping me with that VPN question.
My pleasure. Take care.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, sir. Well, hey, how are you today? Time to talk tech with me, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time to talk about computers and the internet and Windows and Macintosh and Linux. Yes, I talk about Linux. I like Linux. Don't tell anyone. I was talking yesterday in an interview with a well-known security expert. She worked for Yahoo, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, where she was responsible for some of the most useful extensions, things like HTTPS everywhere, and what did she wrote a really useful extension for kind of blocking malware. She wrote the Let's Encrypt stuff, much of that. Very smart. Now working at a browser company, Brave, a browser I like a lot. It's based on Google's Chrome, using the open source software that Chrome's based on, Chromium, but it's tuned for privacy and security. It's kind of a nice browser. If you like the Chrome look, you want Chrome extensions, but you want kind of built-in privacy and security, I do recommend Brave, both on your phones and on your desktops. It works everywhere. She's smart, really smart, Yanju. And we were talking yesterday, and now I've completely forgotten what we were talking about. But anyway, I will move on. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. There was a reason why I wanted to mention her, and I've lost it. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. The website, techguylabs.com, will give you notes about everything we talk about. We put links up there. James DeRuvo's writing that all down, so that's nice. You don't have to remember or write anything down yourself. There's even audio and video from the shows, so if you miss a show, you can go back and catch up on the website, techguylabs.com. Was it VPNs? I can't remember what I was going to talk about. You know what? When in doubt, punt. Line 3, Don, Dana Point. Hi, Don.
Hi. Thanks for letting me talk to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I have a couple of things here. Maybe if we run out of time, we can finish during the commercial. But I have a Flex 5, which has lost its administrator account. I went to Amazon and got the password reset key, which had good verified purchase ratings, only to find out that it, quote, cannot unlock accounts associated with a Microsoft Windows Live account. To unlock a Windows Live account, visit Microsoft.com.
So when you set up your laptop, how long ago did you get this laptop?
3 years.
Okay. When you set it up, you no longer have this choice, but 3 years ago you had a choice. You could set it up with a local account, kind of like the old Windows used to do. Windows 95, 98 was a local account. You made up any name you wanted and you gave it a password, and that was that. But starting with, pretty much starting with Windows 10, which is what came on your laptop, Microsoft encouraged you, and now they force you to use an MSA, a Microsoft account for your login. In other words, it would be something like don@outlook.com and a password. Do you remember if that's what you did?
I have a Microsoft account I use for everything that I have to sign in with it to use just about anything you care to mention.
If you've done that, then
I tried the password key, it did not work.
Say again, when you tried what?
When I tried the password key I got for a reset key from Amazon.
No, that thing you got ripped off. Just stop right there. Never do that. Fortunately, it was a couple of bucks, right?
$30, but it had verified purchase high ratings.
Oh, I wonder where those came from. Not all the guy who's selling this, but it's complete scamware. The guy who's selling this buys about 10 copies and then writes reviews. No, you can't do that. So just right there, stop right there. Whatever it told you is stupid. The good news is you used a Microsoft account, and the Microsoft account has a password recovery.
Okay, when I went to please tell me where that is, because when I went to the website, I couldn't find that information in anything.
Account.live.com/password/reset.
Okay.
That's it.
Great. Thank you.
Yep,
okay.
and you'll be able to, and that's as long, and by the way, this is, I think, why Microsoft's really encouraging people to use a Microsoft account, because this happens a lot. No shame in it. People forget their passwords all the time. This way, you get it back. And that account that you set up is normally an administrator account. It's usually what happens is when you first set up the machine, you set up this account, and then if you want a limited user, or sometimes they call it a standard user account with lower privileges, which isn't a bad idea, but if you want that, you create that secondarily. But your administrator account will always be associated with your Microsoft account. So I
always use standard account.
Yeah, good for you. That's definitely the safest way to operate.
Okay, I can't get my authenticator to work. I have a Note 8, which I highly recommend with the stylus.
Yes.
I use a screen right when you remove the stylus to notate all kinds of screen.
Isn't that great? I was just talking about the new Note 10 Plus, which does the same thing. I love it. Yep.
But a lot of people don't realize you can do that and use it with one note and so on.
I know. It's wonderful.
Yes, I would not be without it. Next, the authenticator. When I try to use that, it sends a code to my Note 8, and I can't seem to get it to work when I'm trying to input the code into the other programs that are requesting it. My question to you is, what am I doing wrong? It gives me the option to copy it, which doesn't do any good when I'm trying to transfer the code to a desktop.
What we're talking about here, and I'll explain this for the other people, is something called two-factor authentication, which I strongly encourage you to use. It's a speed bump for bad guys, but it's such a high speed bump that almost in every case the bad guys will say, oh, they've got two-factor, never mind. Because you can maybe guess your password or get around your password, or sometimes even, thanks to all these breaches lately, your password leaks out into the public. But even if a bad guy has your password, they need that second factor, that authenticator code. So there's many ways to do second factor authentication. The easiest way is what you're talking about, is with a code. Is it a 6-digit code they're looking for?
I think it's a 4 and 4.
Okay. So
with a space in between.
Yeah. So many websites, your bank for sure, Amazon, Twitter, Facebook will let you turn on, Google, probably the most important one, will let you turn on two-factor. And then they will give you a variety of ways you can do it. I actually do a kind of crazy two-factor that requires a physical key, a USB key that I put in to authenticate myself. And I do that because, boy, you better rob me of my key if you're going to get into my accounts. So I like that.
About that key you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's called YubiKey, is the one I use from a company called Yubico, YubiCo. The nice thing about that is there's no text message. Text messaging, by the way, is still better than nothing. I don't want you to think it's not a good solution, but it's problematic because there's very little security on text messages, and so it's possible for a bad guy, if he's only if he's going after you particularly. If he says, you know what, I'm gonna get this done, guy, he can then try to take over your cell phone account. It's usually a single call to your carrier saying, I lost my phone, can you send me a SIM? Oh, I have a new address too. And they send the SIM, and suddenly he has access to your two-factor numbers whenever they're texted over. So I don't like text, but still better than not anything at all. So if you sign into somewhere and it says, I do this, for instance, with my bank. They insist on doing it this way. I sign in, and they said, what's your phone number? I give them my phone number, and they say, okay, look for a message, and then there's a code in there. And then you have to type that code in. Is that what you're talking about?
Works, Leo. That part works fine. It's when I'm using the authenticator itself that it's.
I get it. Hang on, because I do have to take a little tiny break here, but I can help you off the air. Yeah, we can talk about that. Absolutely use this system. It's just so much better, even if it's a text message. And unfortunately, it's not unusual for banks to still use SMS text messages for authentication. And the reason they do that is because it's convenient. And it's still better than nothing. But honestly, just having an authenticator app, which is what he's using on your phone, and using that would be better. Better still, a dongle, a key, something you physically have. Just don't lose it. I'll talk. You know what? I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So Don, you're talking about your authenticator app. Which authenticator you use? You use a Google authenticator, Microsoft authenticator? Which
Microsoft one? And the Adobe, but I found that the Microsoft works much better. But
yeah, and you only need one because there is a standard for this. It's called TOTP, time-based one-time passwords. And there's a standard. So they all do that. They'll all give you the same code. Now, Microsoft, I knew immediately because when you said the dash, almost always these codes from Google Authenticator, Microsoft, all these other ones are 6 digits. Microsoft, in their infinite wisdom, does 4-4. So as soon as you said 4-4, I said, that's the Microsoft Authenticator. So you're saying, and by the way, there's a nice feature in Microsoft Authenticator which you should turn on, certainly with your Windows. Anytime you log into a Microsoft account, instead of sending you a code, it'll just pop up a notification on the authenticator that says, is this you? And do you approve it? And you say yes, and that's it. There's no entry. It should be there whenever you log into Windows, for instance, or Outlook or OneDrive, any of the Microsoft stuff.
Yeah, I use a standard account for everything. But
good man. I love that you're using it.
It just uses my password. It gives me the option for PIN or fingerprint or whatever.
Right.
But I use the standard.
Okay. So you're logging in. What are you logging into that it doesn't? Oh, am I out of time already? No. What are you logging into that it doesn't work?
Financial issues where it.
And when you set it up, do you remember? Did it show you a QR code that you then put into your authenticator?
No, it asks for the code from the authenticator, and I go to my phone. It sends a code. Well, I go to my authenticator at that point.
Yeah.
I get the code, and then I write it down, and then go to the desktop to type it in, and the 30 seconds is almost gone.
Oh, don't worry about the 30 seconds. They put in some slop because they know you have a minute.
Even when I get it put in, it still isn't accepted.
That's the wrong code then. So somehow it got put in your authenticator wrong. You know what? Instead of using Microsoft Authenticator, can I make a recommendation? It's free.
Absolutely.
It's called Authy, Authy. I finally got my wife to use it. It took a long time. So you can download it if you Google. It's from a company called Twilio, but if you just Google Authy, they have an extension for all the browsers, but you can also download a standalone version.
Is that in the Play
Store? Yes.
Okay.
So you put it on your Android device, and then what you'll have to do is request new two-factor codes from everybody. And what they'll do is they'll pop up onto the screen a QR code. You'll point your phone at it. You'll say, add an account to Authy, and you'll point your phone at it. Nice thing about Authy is you create an account, and it remembers everything when you move from phone to phone or computer to computer, so you don't have to redo this each time.
I like that.
Oh, I love it. It's all I use. Highly recommended. I got to run. Thank you. Let me show you my dongle. It's okay. It's radio. It's okay. It's allowed. I think it says in my contract, do not show your dongle, but I'm going to do it anyway. Here it is. This is a YubiKey, and it's tiny. It's on my keychain. That's why I keep it on my keychain, because I don't want to lose. It's tiny. I don't want to lose it, because this is what I use to authenticate myself. If a bad guy doesn't have this physical device, when I set up a new computer or a new phone, and I log into my Google account, it says, okay, insert your dongle. This is getting worse and worse. Put your little key in there and press the button on the key, and the key spits out a one-time code. It's same as that 6-digit code you get from your authenticator, except it's not. It's much longer. It has a long string of letters that never change, that say this is a YubiKey, this is its serial number, all that. And then in the last, I think, 10 digits, that changes every 30 seconds. And I stick that in, I press it, and Google goes, oh yeah, that's Leo. Only Leo would be able to do this. And that's what you want. You could tell a bad guy, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could tell a bad guy, oh, my Google password? Yeah, it's monkey123, so what? Because if he doesn't have the dongle, doesn't matter. So it's like 2 passwords. One is in your head, but one is on your keychain. So this one is made by a company called YubiKey. Google has their own. They call them the Titan keys. A lot of companies make these. There's even some open source ones. That the downside is you do buy these, and they range in price from $20 to $60. YubiKey makes I think the base YubiKey, it's the blue key, is I think $40, maybe less, maybe $20. I think it's $20. The blue key. Get the blue key. Now you're going to want more than one, because you can set this up with Google, Facebook, my email company, everybody that supports this. You can say, I want to have 2 keys or 3 keys or 4 keys. You should have at least 2 keys. One you keep on your keychain, but in case that gets lost, you ever lose your keys? Yeah, sometimes that happens. In case that gets lost, you have one in your safe deposit box, or honestly, your desk drawer is fine, but somewhere safe where you can get to it so that you can still get in. Really recommend this, but not everybody wants to go to the complication. So your phone can be, in effect, your phone could be like that. Your phone could be your authenticator. You're not going to lose your phone, right? In order for that to work, you need to put some software on there. And I was talking to Don, and he's been using the Microsoft Authenticator. You will, unfortunately, because Microsoft insists, be using the Microsoft Authenticator if you use Windows or any Microsoft service like OneDrive or Outlook.com. You'll still need the Microsoft Authenticator. That's how they authenticate. But for everything else, Google, Facebook, Twitter, you can use a standalone authenticator program. They often say Google Authenticator. They say, now get Google Authenticator. And it's true, there is a Google Authenticator, but you don't have to use that one. They all work exactly the same way. They take the current time of day, they mush it together with a secret number that is yours and yours alone, kind of like your password, and give you a 6-digit code. That changes every 30 seconds. The one I recommend, I told Don about, is called Authy. It's free, A-U-T-H-Y, and it's awesome. That's how you remember it. Authy is awesome. And it puts all your codes in there. You can have many, many accounts with all your authenticator codes. And so when it asks for a code, you just open Authy on your phone, and you go to that account, and it says, oh, your 6-digit code is, and then it knows. Then it knows that's you. And that changes every 30 seconds. I did also tell Don, because Don said, well, I have to rush, and by then it's almost 28 seconds. No, you don't have to rush. They add a little slop, because time's not perfect, right? People have different times. So you got a minute. You probably got a minute. So do this. Turn this on Facebook for sure, Twitter for sure. The most important thing if you use Google is Google, especially if you use Gmail. You don't want anybody stealing your email account. So get Authy, A-U-T-H-Y, put it on your phone. The nice thing about Authy, the reason I recommend Authy, over Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator is because you can create an Authy account. This is all free. And when you have the Authy account, it keeps track of all your secret codes. They're encrypted, so no one else can see them, not even the creators of Authy. They're encrypted. But that way, if you lose your phone or get a new phone, you can sign into your Authy account, verify it, type in your encryption password, and you've got your codes back. So that's always a concern if you're using two-factor. You don't want to lose that second factor because that'll make it hard to get it. And that's the point. It makes it hard to get into your account. So if you really care about privacy and security and you really don't want anybody ever to get into your Google Mail or any of these accounts, turn on two-factor. Most of these companies will give you a variety. Your password manager, that's another good one. I use LastPass, but whatever password manager you use, that's a really important one because if somebody could get into your password vault, they'd have all your passwords. So turn on two-factor on that. And any good password manager will give you a variety of choices, including Google Authenticator. If they say Google Authenticator, say, yeah, that's okay, but use Authy, A-U-T-H-Y. And if they offer you YubiKey or sometimes they call it a FIDO2, that's the standard, the FIDO2 standard or FIDO UTF standard. UDF. If they offer you that, and you're willing to carry around a little key, a little dongle on your keychain, that's the best. If you've seen the movies where they go into the vault in the mountain where the nuclear codes are kept. You've seen the movies. They go in, you have to do a handprint, you have to do an iris scan, you have to enter a code. The more of those, the better. And sometimes you have a special card key. This is how they did it most of the time. They had a special card key that generated numbers on the card. That's it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So that's why I like Authy, is it does, in fact, back up your two-factor codes. So that's kind of why I like Authy, why I recommend Authy. Johnny Jet. He's a Jet. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's your baby's name? You can tell us now.
Olivia Grace.
Oh, my God. I love that name.
Oh, good.
Oh, Olivia Grace.
I told my dad, he's like, that's a good name, I guess.
Yeah, parents never.
He wanted me to name him after my mom. After my mom.
Oh yeah. Well, I understand that, but you know what? You got a wife, and she's got concerns.
Well,
and she gave birth, so she gets to choose.
Well, we also named our son after my mom. Her maiden name's his middle name.
Okay, fine. So we wanted to name Abby Clara, but we made the mistake of telling my mom. And she says,
a mistake.
Big mistake. You wouldn't tell anybody, and I admire you for that. Except you told your dad, big mistake. But anyway, she said, oh, that reminds me of Clarabelle the Clown. And then that was it. That was it.
Is that a cow? Is Clarabelle the cow?
Something like that on Howdy Doody. Anyway, that was it. We couldn't name her Clara.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Olivia Grace. And how is Natalie?
They're doing all right. It was a little touch and go. She came 3.5 weeks early. I was in Las Vegas. And I got a text. I was in the middle of a meeting. And she's like, my doctor said go to the hospital. And I was like, what? I just got up, got on the phone. I called. I said, I need to get on the next flight. It was in an hour and 15 minutes. I ran downstairs, got in an Uber, was at the airport in 8 minutes.
I love Vegas for that.
And my Uber driver was amazing. Oh. He did not dilly-dally. And
did you tell him? You said, I got a baby on the way. You get me to the airport.
Yeah, I said my wife's on her way to the hospital. And then when I said I have a baby on the way, he said I was hoping for that.
Oh.
And, it was amazing. And I just ran.
Did
and went
you
right
get there in
hospital.
time for the delivery?
I sure did. Yeah, I got there plenty of time. But it was. I wrote all about it.
3.5 weeks is premature.
I'll tweet it.
It's on the website.
3.5
weeks is premature, but not horribly premature, right? She could breathe and everything, right?
Well, Natalie developed preeclampsia. That was a problem. And so they're more worried about her. Her blood pressure was spiking.
Yeah.
Her blood sugars were low. She had gestational diabetes just during the pregnancy.
Yep.
And
it's very common.
I'm I'm just tweeting this, but once they give birth, it both goes away normally. Although Natalie originally had postpartum preeclampsia, which is a whole other thing, and that's crazy. But anyway, I just sent you the stories. You can read it sometime. And it was harrowing, but I made it, and it was amazing. And I'm a lucky man. I have a son and a daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Here's the conference.
Yeah.
Here's you running the hell out of there.
Yeah.
I'm glad they put a big sign that says labor and delivery. You wouldn't want to. Want to think, oh, I'm going to have an appendicitis.
Yeah, she went to Cedars Sinai, and every time.
Good hospital.
Yeah.
That's a good-looking nurse you got there. Oh, no, that's you. Your eyes are kind of wide, Johnny. You a little nervous?
I'm scared as hell.
A little nervous? A little wide awake?
Very. So scared.
Oh, Natalie, congratulations. Oh, did they have to put her in an incubator? No.
Yeah, that was a problem, yes.
Oh.
So it was a little anticlimactic as I wrote because
you
the first
don't get
24
to hold her.
hours,
Yeah.
we didn't get to hold her for 24 hours.
So she did have a little trouble breathing.
She did.
But that cleared up quickly.
Yep. Within 24 hours, she was off the oxygen.
Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, look at that little baby Olivia Grace. Oh, and Natalie looks great. Oh, she looks way too good for somebody who just gave birth. That's just not right. Oh, my God. I love the little bars. He's been everywhere. He's breathing the mountain air. He's crossed the desert bare. He is Johnny Jet, our traveling guy. And Johnny wasn't here last week. I didn't tell you why, because I wasn't sure. But now you've published a blog post, so it's public knowledge. Johnny and Natalie had little baby Olivia Grace. What was her birthday?
Yeah. August 14th.
Congratulations. 10 days. She's 10 days old today.
She is. That's right. Today's her 10th birthday, 10-day birthday.
And mother and child are home and doing well?
They're doing great. It was
nice.
touch and go first. And as I told you in commercial, I was in Vegas. What happened? I was at the Virtuoso Travel Conference. Middle of a meeting when I got the text, and I was like, "Oh my God, I gotta go."
Every father's nightmare. But you got there in time.
It felt like I honestly felt like I was in a movie, and fortunately, I had it all prepared. Like in the back of my head, I knew, a few days earlier I was in Florida, which would have been a much bigger problem because it's a 5-hour flight. This was a 43-minute flight, and I knew if I had to, I could drive.
Yep.
Be there within 5 hours. So I took the chance, and she came 3.5 weeks early, but everyone's healthy, and it was an amazing experience and a harrowing one.
And I love the name Olivia Grace. I think that's a great name. It's Olivia Grace Descala.
It is.
Not Jet.
Well, we call her Jet.
Baby Jet. So you got Jack Jet and Olivia Jet?
Yep.
Nice. Nice. Well, congratulations, Donnie. I'm so happy for you.
Well, thank you.
Oh, so a proud
my travel tip there is always have a backup plan if you're traveling.
Did you have a go bag?
I had a bag. I always have a bag pretty much ready to go with all my airplane essentials.
That's the thing is you don't really check. So how hard can it be to run into the hotel room, throw everything back into the bag, and get out?
Well, fortunately, I already checked out. I checked out of the hotel because I was leaving that day to actually go to Napa. I was supposed to fly right to Napa. Actually, I was supposed to fly to SFO with Lincoln Motors, and they were going to fly me via helicopter.
By helicopter.
From SFO to Napa.
Yes, Sam Abul-Samid is doing that right now. He's driving that Lincoln, that new Lincoln.
Aviator.
The Aviator, yeah.
So, and what's ironic is I got picked up at Las Vegas at the Aria Hotel in a Lincoln MKX, and I was like, oh my God, that reminds me. I got to tell them I can't make it. So I texted them saying I can't make it today.
Having a little problem with the baby.
Yeah. So anyway, they were great, and so was the Virtuoso people. So anyway, I'm back.
Sam will be talking about the Aviator tomorrow, by the way, on the radio show.
Oh, good.
Because he did not have a baby, as far as I know.
I want to hear it because it looks like a great car, and I love the name, and I actually drive a Lincoln now. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you drive a hot rod Lincoln? No. Oh, okay.
Do they have a Hot Rod Lincoln?
Oh, yes, they do. And we will play the song for you a little later on.
Okay. Okay.
So Johnny joins us each week not only to tell us about his baby news, but to tell us how to travel like a rock star using technology.
Yes. So this is if you're a dog or an animal lover.
Wait a minute. If you're a dog, I'm sorry, I'm a human. Oh, if you're a dog lover. Okay.
Then forget this.
Okay.
If you're an animal lover, then you're going to really love this website and service. It's called freeanimaldoctor.org. It's a nonprofit incorporated in California. And so they do two things. One thing is that if you're in LA on vacation, you can go for a hike with a dog in an animal shelter.
Oh.
And the proceeds, it costs $50 to $60. It'll go for a 2-hour hike. And you book it through Airbnb, but you can go onto this website and then you'll have the Airbnb site where they'll send you the link where you can book your hike, which is a great idea because, a lot of people want to be with an animal and, they can't travel with their animal. So this is one way to do it. And
but
also
be careful. They do this. Kauai Humane Society did this. And we met a family.
Bit them?
No. They took him home.
They stole it? Yeah.
No, they adopted him. It's pretty hard not to. Those little puppy eyes look in you and go, "You're not going to bring me back to the shelter, are you?"
Yeah.
Yep.
So they did it in Kauai?
Yeah, they brought him back.
Okay.
Hawaiian Airlines. So kudos to Hawaiian. They let you do. They encourage you to do this. They even handed out little flyers saying, "Look, if you want to, meet a dog while you're in Kauai, we will help you get him home if you decide to adopt him." It was really sweet. Yeah.
I gotta look into that and write about it.
They also have kitties. They have kitty cats.
Well, this is the other part of the website. So a lot of people, they said 21% of animal owners do not have money to spend on vet bills. So if you fall into that category, what you can do is you can upload your story, the picture of the dog, and your vet has to go in and say what's wrong and what the amount is, and people can donate, and the money goes directly to the veterinarian, not to the people, so they can't be scammed.
Right.
And then 100% of the money goes there. This is also on CBS LA. Actually, one of my friends who's a producer there actually turned me on to this website and said check it out. And I saw
freeanimaldoctor.org. Yeah, Lisa's a big supporter of the local Humane Society here, and they have the same kind of thing, a clinic for pets that the owners can't take care of them. And we donate to that because that's an important cause. In fact, we were just at their gala. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is great.
And they'll take any animal. I mean, you can upload any animal, and you can people can log onto that website. You can see which animals need the money. You can donate directly. Once it hits that money, let's say it's $500, it stops. You can't, like other crowdfunding sites where it keeps going over and over. It just stops at that amount of money.
That's nice.
And the company does not take any of it, although they say they need donations, so you can also donate to them as well.
Yeah, give them 10%. Just, a little extra, a tip. Nice.
Yeah, but I just think it's a great idea to offer these animal rescue shelter experiences where, you can go hiking. And I mean, going up to the Hollywood sign where you're looking at right now, the Hollywood Hills and that view, it's a really fun hike.
Oh, isn't that a great idea?
And
I love the website. It says, your trip needs dogs. Of course it does.
It sure does.
Good tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to do an app or?
How much time we got? Otherwise,
we got 2 minutes.
2 minutes? All right, let's do one. So, you know the bicycles Peloton?
I am a proud Peloton owner.
Are you?
Well, I love my Peloton. Are you kidding me?
Well, my wife wants one. It's $3,000. And
it doesn't stop there, by the way. The monthly is also steep.
How much is the monthly? $50?
Yeah, something like I can't remember because I paid for like 4 years all up front.
Yeah, so that's what Natalie wants for a push present.
It's so great because you don't have to go to spin class. You have a spin class in your house.
Yeah, well.
And they do more than spin now. They have treadmills. They have all sorts of exercises. I really like Peloton, yeah.
Well, they do have a new URL. It's called hotelfinder.onepeloton.com.
Oh, yeah, a lot of hotels have Pelotons.
So now you can see which hotels offer these. So if you don't have one like us and you don't want to spend $3,000, you can go. I think your first ride is free, and then you're going to have to pay like a subscription. But if you have a subscription, you can just log into your account. And usually the hotels only have one or two. Some of them are in the gym, the hotel gym, but some of them are in rooms. And so you can figure out which rooms there are.
You can have one in your room. That's hysterical.
Yes.
Wow. Well, so, Johnny, when you and Natalie come to the Bay Area, you're free to use our Peloton anytime.
Well, thank you. Our neighbor has one, so Natalie's I said, you got to jump on theirs first before you buy one.
Highly recommended. It is expensive. It would be cheaper just to get a gym membership and go to the spin classes. But I thought, you know what? Here's what I tell myself when I buy this kind of exercise or health stuff. It's cheaper than a heart attack. Right?
That's for sure.
If I get my daily exercise, that's better than going to the hospital with a heart attack. So.
Well, I got myself a daughter, so
you can't afford anything. Wait, dude, 18 years from now, college. You better get saving.
I'm getting cracking right now. That's why I'm working.
Johnny Jet. Help him out. Go to johnnyjet.com. It's a free site full of great travel information. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I have many. 8888. Ask Leo. Let's see. We talked to Don and Dana Point, so I think it's time for Joe in Brea, California. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a bizarre problem.
Oh, I love the bizarre ones.
Well, first of all, I'm not a newbie. I got my first computer in 1981, the Apple E.
Mm-hmm.
And I started teaching in a high school computer lab in 1985. So
nice. You've been around the block. I've
been at this for a while.
No spring chicken here, my friends.
Yeah. But it's hard to keep up, man. It is hard to keep up. Here's what happened. This is fairly simple. I had a folder on my Windows 7 desktop with some photographs in it that I had scanned and put in this desktop folder, still called New Folder, by the way. I hadn't even renamed it.
Yep.
And I was just going to drag that folder and drop it into another folder where I kept family photos.
As one does.
Yes. And using the right click, saying move.
Okay.
Is that a bad? That's not.
No. That's a good idea.
Many times
so
before.
when you're moving around stuff on the Mac and you right click, you get some other choices. You can make an alias. You can move it. You can copy it. So that's good. Okay.
A Mac? That's Apple, isn't it?
Oh, you're on a Windows machine.
Yes.
Same thing.
I gave up.
They copied. Anyway. Yeah, you mentioned the Apple II, so I foolishly assumed.
Well, our lab scuttled my Apple machines after a couple of years and went to IBM's in 1988. So
yeah, that's like the rest of the world. What a mistake!
Yes.
What a mistake they made. But all right, I'm not gonna.
A business computer lab, and so it was.
Oh well, yeah. Then you have because you're learning WordPerfect. You have to.
Well, not quite WordPerfect at that point yet. But anyway, so I drag and drop this folder and not into the other folder as an icon. I had that other folder's window open, and I can see all the photos. It's the one that I use often. And when I drop the folder into an empty spot on that window, it disappeared.
What?
And in its place, there appeared a file cabinet folder.
What the heck?
Called VC_red.cab.
That doesn't sound
which
right.
I understand is a
cab. It's a cab file.
Yeah, C++.
Well, a lot of things can use cab files. It's like a zip file. It's a compressed file.
Well, now, as I say, this is a folder I use all the time. That icon was not there before. It's not like I'm looking at this for the first time. My first thought was, gee, I dropped it in the wrong place. It's gone somewhere.
Are you curious what you want? What I would do? Have you opened the cab folder to see what's in it?
Oh, yes, I have.
Are your photos there? Are your files there?
No.
Nothing's there.
They are not in there. It is a bunch of system files that, as I understand, are related to C++.
Huh.
As a matter of fact, there's like 98 files in there, and they're all dated 2007.
Oh, they're old.
Now, I do have the same file cabinet in other places on my computer, but those CAB files, VC Red files, are all dated from 2010. Now, this is a Dell desktop we're talking about here, which I bought in 2013 and has run great for me.
Let me tell you what botcrawl.com says. VC RED file is a harmless and vital file. You, I think, already know this, associated with the VC_RED program on a Windows computer. They're, as you thought, installation files for the Visual C++ redistributable.
Right. I Googled all that. Yes. Yeah. And it's harmless. But
are you sure? I mean, that could have just been there anyway. You can't. Yeah, you could totally delete it.
I know. That's what my thought was. But I then searched.
But where is my untitled folder?
Well, I searched my computer for that new folder, and it's not there. It's gone. There is nothing on my computer anywhere called the new folder. Now, fortunately, I back up my personal files on almost a nightly basis.
Good. So you didn't lose anything.
Folder again from my.
So it's more a mystery than it is a crisis.
Well, my first thought, this is so bizarre, so unbelievable. Is it a virus? Is it a malware? I scan with Malwarebytes. I scan with my web root. I'm up to date, with the Windows Defender. Nothing shows up. All my money is still in all my bank accounts. So how could a folder turn into an ancient file like that? File cabinet. Gee, I'm glad that you said.
Yeah, I don't. That's what we call a bug. I don't know what that is.
Well, if you're not able to do this, then I'm not going to try to pay somebody to go through my computer and figure it out.
This is one of the reasons I just loathe Windows is weird behavior like this.
If I was making a list of top 5 in the last 30 years, this would hit number 1 for me.
So you dragged it, right-clicked, dragged it, chose move here.
Yes.
It moved. It in theory would have moved that untitled folder.
Yes.
You looked through that folder, the photos folder, make sure that there is no other folder that could be. You're pretty sure it was this VC Red file.
Well, I didn't. The window was open. I didn't even have to look for it in that window. That this icon. Looks like a big like a filing cabinet with the bottom.
Yeah, it's a cab file. I know it. Yeah, that's what they look like. Yeah.
And that had appeared. It appeared as I did the drop, and I'm thinking, what? I don't want to say what, but
what the heck?
Yes, and. Again, I searched for that folder that I had dropped. It was gone. I had to go get it off my backup drive to bring it back onto my computer. And
so there's really 2 possibilities. One is it's just a stupid Windows bug. What version of Windows are you using?
Windows 7 Home Premium.
Okay, and you keep it up to date, right?
Yes.
You know that at the end of
according to Woody's,
Oh, you follow Woody. Good.
I follow Woody.
Woody
when he says it's okay, that's when I do the update.
Yeah. Good. That's a good person to follow. He's very conservative about this stuff, but you do those updates. So there's 2 possibilities. It's a bug, and I've seen weirder bugs in Windows, or it's, as you suspected, perhaps malware. It's not normal. So you should ask Woody. I have never seen anything like this, but like I said, I use Windows. I have Windows. I have Windows sitting right in front of me right now on a Surface Go because that's part of my job. It wouldn't be my first choice, but and I have to say one of the reasons is because Windows has become this kind of crufty operating system over time. Not that the Mac is much better. It's getting pretty crufty too. And as a result, you get weird things like this. You scanned it, which is a good thing.
Yes, twice, as a matter of fact, with both programs.
Also, and I would run this, Microsoft hides something called a malicious software removal tool on your system. Woody's talked about this as well at askwoody.com. If you hit the Windows key and type MRT, it will load it and do a thorough scan. It's not as complete as an antivirus, but it's more up to date. Microsoft updates it every Tuesday on Patch Tuesday, every second Tuesday of the month. So it runs a quick scan just to make sure. They've realized this is such a problem in Windows that they need to do this. Doesn't mean that it will find something, but it's just nice to get a second opinion.
Well, this same cab file does appear elsewhere on my computer, but the files in those two are dated from 2010.
Yeah. This is an old. This VC Red thing is old. It doesn't happen anymore. Shouldn't happen anymore. So it may just be that the drag. Sometimes drags misbehave. Your fingers misbehave, or the drag misbehaves, and stuff got dragged that shouldn't have got dragged. You got me. I don't know what happened there. It's a mystery, but I'd be prudent to make sure it's not a bad guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, that's weird. That's not normal in any respect, and I wouldn't expect it, and I don't know of a kind of normal explanation for it. It's probably correct to think about malware. So you said you used what to scan it?
Malwarebytes.
Okay.
I've used for a long time.
And that's up to date? You're using an up-to-date version?
Yes, updates automatically.
Good.
And WebRoot, which I've used for a long time, but now my online banking program pays for it for me.
Oh, nice.
Ally Bank.
Yeah, I like Ally. Yeah, Ally's an online bank. That's nice.
All our customers can use WebRoot. We'll foot the bill, and that's what I use. And I love WebRoot because it's very lightweight and not much of a strain on the computer, and as good as when you read the ratings, it's as good as most of the others. So
yeah, when you go to Windows 10, and you're going to have to in about 3 months, you'll
maybe like a year.
January. Microsoft stopped supporting Windows 7. No more updates.
I know, but I used XP for long after that expired.
Can't recommend that.
I'm old, Leo.
I can't recommend that.
Don't get me out of my...
Can't recommend that. All right, but if you're going to... Okay.
I'm going to go to 10
when
eventually.
You might as well. Windows 10 is very similar to 7. You're not going to notice a lot of differences.
Hopefully all the bugs will be...
And a lot of bugs are fixed. And by the way, on your system, I would do a clean install because I would start fresh, back up your data.
Well, I'm going to get a new computer at that point.
Yeah, or that's another way to do it. Yeah. And it comes with an antivirus. That's all I recommend. I would not put a third-party antivirus on.
I've heard you say that. Yes, yeah. I've heard you say that.
Well, in fact, we just got another reason not to. Symantec and Norton's antivirus has been blocking Windows Update.
Well,
seems like a bad idea, but they've decided it's malware. Yeah. So yeah, WebRoot's better. I think WebRoot's not bad.
Yes.
And Malwarebytes isn't bad. I don't keep either one running though. What I would do is have them around so you can do scans and stuff. But you don't.
Well, the WebRoot runs, but malware I have to run that.
That's a standalone.
I don't get the version.
I wouldn't even run because it's stuff running in the background, and that's the problem. It can introduce new problems. For all I know, WebRoot did this.
But
that's exactly the kind of thing because that's exactly the kind of bug a security program would throw out. Because remember, the problem with antivirus software is they don't run as that's not a user process. That's not in user land. That's running down there in ring 0. That's a system process.
Right.
Which means it hooks everything, including drag and drop. So it's completely possible that this is a WebRoot bug.
Well, I did a little testing. I was able to drag and drop individual photos after that with no problem. But I'm afraid to try to do a folder again. I don't want to compound the problem. I just thought I would check with you first to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's
heard
not
of anything like this.
Yeah, it's not a behavior I've ever heard of before. I know what these VC Red files are, but it's not a behavior I've ever heard of before. It's not in any way a normal behavior. That's why, honestly, when you do go to Windows 10, put as little stuff on there as you can, because everything you add introduces a new layer of, like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
And the more I don't know what the hell is going on, the worse.
I'm pretty lean in my computer stuff. I'm photos and videos, family stuff and that kind of stuff. I don't do gaming and. I'm online a lot, so
I would look and see if WebRoot, for instance, has shell extensions. Right, that's the right-click stuff. See if WebRoot has it.
How do I find that out?
Well, it might be in the settings, or Google WebRoot shell extensions, because it's not at all unusual. Because if you think about it, that's one thing that maybe a malware would hook onto. You want to see if WebRoot protects, blocks, or modifies shell extensions, because maybe that's what happened. Is it got a bug into the move? So that's, to me, that's not the kind of thing you'd see in Windows. It's exactly the kind of thing you'd see in, some sort of third-party software hooking into the kernel.
Well, I don't know.
Wouldn't that be ironic if it was WebRoot that caused it?
That would be ironic. Would their website talk about something like this?
Not publicly. That's the other problem. These guys never want to admit they've done anything.
No.
Bad for business.
No. And try to talk to a human being.
Yeah, good luck. And as I said, I don't have anything against WebRoot. That is one of the better ones because they have because it's an online. They update online.
It's in the cloud.
It's in the cloud.
You're not downloading definitions.
And for that reason, it's more up to date. That's one of the problems, one of many problems, but one of the big problems with antiviruses is they're not up to date fast enough.
Right.
0 days bite you. WebRoot's less likely to have that happen. So it's not bad, but honestly, who knows? I mean, and it could be a symptom. It's what it is. It's a symptom of badly written software, right? And it could be that Microsoft had, but if it did, you would see this much more widespread, right? 1.5 billion people using Windows 7, you'd expect there'd be a lot of entries for what's this VC Red thing?
Yeah. And when you Google it, I might get some
common
questions about it, but not my specific problem.
Common.
I have not found.
So that leads me to think either it was just a weird glitch, but much more likely caused by some interaction with third-party software.
Well, I'm going to put some couple of dummy folders together here and try.
See if you can make it happen again. I bet it'll never happen again.
Well, how much you going to?
I'll bet you a brand new copy of Windows 10. Yeah. I don't know what people's aversion to Windows 10 is. I don't find it to be any different, really, than Windows 7.
Well, maybe all the bad headlines.
That makes me mad. And people like Steve Gibson says it's a turd and I'll never use it. And I don't think that's doing anybody a favor. It's not. It's Windows 7 cleaned up.
Well, I'll tell you, I had Windows 10 when I bought this. I'm sorry. I had Windows 8 when I bought this Dell computer.
Oh, and that was bad. You were right to go back to 7.
Well, I had it for about 3 days.
Oh.
Place and said, strip it off and put some in Windows.
8 was bad.
There was a video floating around done by your old TV program had a young guy on it, wore dark rimmed glasses, a small guy, not the big husky guy. He was a young guy. I think it was on your program, and he posted a video of his father doing Windows.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do totally. I don't know I don't remember who did it, but yes, I remember that video. No, 8 was
like me. That's exactly
8 was a nightmare. 8 was a big mistake, and Microsoft
playing music and I couldn't stop it.
I know.
Computer off.
You're thinking Chris Pirillo.
Yes.
This Microsoft acknowledged it and walked it back. And 10 fixes all those problems. It still has this tablet mode, but it's hidden away. You don't ever see it. Right. I think they fixed it. And actually, I really like Windows 10. I'm not a Windows fan for a variety of reasons. I really like a Unix-based operating system. But if you're going to use Windows, I think it absolutely should use Windows 10. And the beauty of this is you're kind of done buying Windows at this point. Microsoft says we're not, that's it. We're just going to keep updating Windows 10.
Yeah.
So it's the last version you'll buy.
Well, hopefully.
We can but hope.
Well, I'm 72. I can tell you this.
You're young. You're young. As I get older, 72 seems younger and younger and younger.
Well, I heard you say you went to college in the 70s and that you didn't.
I'm 62. I'm a little younger than
you. Worked with then. I graduated in 69. There was nothing there.
Yeah. Oh, it's changed a lot, hasn't it?
When our high school wanted to put in a computer lab, I was the expert because I had an Apple IIe.
Joe, a pleasure. Thanks. Take care. Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography. We've got your smartphones. We got your smartwatches. We got your virtual reality. I just set up for my son. I hate VR, and I've even said in public, I think VR is a gimmick. It's ridiculous. It makes me sick, literally. I should walk that back a little bit because what I have really enjoyed is the virtual reality rides. If you go to Universal Studios, they have some really fun rides where you're not going anywhere, but you're wearing the goggles and you feel like you're going up and down and around, and it's fun. Although I have to say, there was a Harry Potter ride at Universal Studios where you're flying on a broomstick through Hogwarts and playing Quidditch. It was awesome. I loved it. But my wife went on it once, and she said, she got off it. She was nauseous. And she doesn't get that nauseated. But they had virtual reality headsets when I went on it. I went on it. We were down there a couple of weeks ago and went on it, and they got rid of the headsets. And I said, what happened to the headsets? He said, well, they're making everybody sick. we had to get rid of them. That's the problem with VR. But my son, he's 16, loves it. He has an Oculus Rift. Well, it was mine. I gave it to him. He has an HTC Vive. Well, it was mine, but I gave it to him. And we just got it for review, and I bought it so that we could review it on our. We have a hardware review podcast that we do. It's also on YouTube called Hot Hands on Tech, and this is the new Oculus Quest. It comes from Facebook. They bought it, the Oculus company, and it's a virtual reality headset that doesn't have to be tied to a computer. It has a computer built in, which is kind of nice. I mean, you're not going to walk around because you can't see. You'd walk right into a wall. But you can. There's a little more motion involved. It's got two handsets. It's a little less expensive because you don't have to buy a $1,500 computer to run it. And it's pretty cool. He actually has been playing with it. He likes it. So I am not. I'm not personally a VR fan, and I'm honestly more excited about what Microsoft calls mixed reality. I call augmented reality. The idea that you're looking through glasses at the real world, but superimposed on it is your Minecraft game or more information or whatever. I think that's kind of more interesting to me. I don't like sealing myself off from the world to play one of these games, but he loves it. He's been playing it. He really thinks it's great. And there are some interesting uses. For instance, they're using it to treat PTSD, and very effectively too. I think that's interesting. I'm not sure what they do, but there's some program they run that helps veterans and others with post-traumatic stress disorder from war or stressful situations kind of move past it. So that's kind of neat. There's, it's for amusement parks. You don't have to have a lot of land to make a roller coaster. Basically, you need a shed and a lot of computers and some big screens, and that's it. And boy, your mind is funny. It will trick you. I went to an amusement park. I call it an amusement park. It's not an amusement park. It's really just a storefront called the Void VR, VOID. They're all over the country. They have a Star Wars game. So you go in and they hook you up. The computer's on your back. It's in a backpack, and you have the virtual reality headgear. I did it with my wife. You can go with other people in a team. And what they've done is very clever. It's a very small area, but they've created physical props that match what you're seeing. the touch anyway matches what you're seeing. It doesn't look like but they don't have to make it look like anything because you're looking through at the world in these visors, and you get to jump on a spaceship and fly through space. You get to walk across a little board, and man, your body goes, whoa, I'm going to fall. I'm looking, you're in a storefront on a piece of wood, and there's a cement floor right below you, and you still go, whoa, I'm going to fall. And you're shooting stormtroopers. And just like the movies, the stormtroopers don't seem to be able to aim for anything, but you can get them. It's great. Highly recommend it. Did not make me nauseous. Didn't make my wife nauseous. She loved it. We had a great time. She was a better shot than me. You get your score afterwards. So I think there are a lot of interesting uses for it. Mostly play, but I think there's some other uses that are, especially treatment for PTSD and things like that are going to be very interesting. So I guess I'm going to take back my criticism of VR. It's just not for me. But neither were 3D movies. Really didn't like those either. I think the industry that I cover, the tech industry, I think it's good to be a little skeptical because really the way I think maybe in the early days there was a lot of low-hanging fruit, a lot of problems to be solved that were obvious and let's fix this. Now they're just trying anything. They're just throwing spaghetti up against the wall to see what sticks. I don't know. Do people want this? Do people want a little thing you put in the small of your back that tells you to sit up straight? I don't think so, but they make it. Your phone buzzes you when you're slumping. Oh, got his shoulders back. It's called the Spire. It also tells you when you're not, breathing steadily. Put it in your underwear. I think 3D TV and VR, sometimes I think, well, they're just trying to sell more TVs. 3D TV they gave up on, right? I guess there's still 3D movies, but do you go? I see some people who say, oh yeah, if there's a choice, I'll take the 3D. Me, it's dim, it's dark, it's kind of hard, it's like weird, and it takes you right out of the movie. I want to be put in a world. And now VR will do that. When VR, your brain gets tricked. It thinks it's walking on a 6-inch wide beam across this void of space, and you feel like you could fall. It's kind of convincing. And I have to say, I really did think I was flying on a broomstick through Hogwarts. I really did. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. If you want to talk high tech. If you know what our last caller's weird problem with the VC Red file was, hey, call me too. That's a good reason. Help us out. 8888 Ask Leo. Dave's on the line from Ridgefield, Washington. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Leo. This is Whiskey 7 Foxtrot Zulu Yankee.
Oh, I'm a Whiskey 6 Tango Whiskey Tango myself.
Yeah, I heard somebody do this, say this last week or a week before, and I looked you up. I'm wondering, do you do digital contacts?
I have done it. I'm not currently, we're talking about amateur radio. He's a ham. I'm a ham. And I really think it's a great hobby, but because I talk on the radio for hours every day, I don't have much inclination to go home and talk on the radio some more. I know Art Bell did. He loved it. He'd do his show. He'd do coast to coast, go home and do another 3 hours.
Sure.
But I'm kind of talked out. So no, but I plan when I retire. And there's all sorts of interesting digital ham stuff that's very, very intriguing. Using the internet, for instance, to get to a point. And I was using an antenna in North Carolina for a while, from here in Northern California over the internet. That was cool. In fact, hams invented packet radio. They were the first to do what we now take for granted on the internet.
Well, radio teletype as well.
That's right. Yeah. Plus, in case of emergency, thank goodness for the amateur radio operators, because when the phones are out and the internet's out, they're not. And they're lifesavers. So thank you. We have a ham podcast, actually, Ham Nation. I don't know if you've ever watched it. Highly recommend it.
So I've got a couple of questions about Linux, one that I called about, and then I started thinking about another one. But I'll start with the original.
You know me. I'll talk about Linux till the cows come home.
I've been curious about playing around with a home Linux server on an 11-year-old Dell Inspiron desktop.
Okay.
I'd like to use Linux Mint if possible.
No.
It's
something that old, and if you're just using it as a server, the one thing you don't want is a graphical user interface.
Okay.
And Mint's all about the graphical user interface. In fact, one could argue it's a version of Linux. Linux is a free operating system, open source operating system. I love it. Everybody should just give up on Windows and Mac and start using Linux. Okay, there, I said it. However, Mint was a flavor, they call them distributions of Linux, created by the folks who did a desktop called Cinnamon. And it's really all about the graphics. If what you want to do is run a server, you don't need graphics, right? You don't care what the screen looks like.
Right.
So I would recommend getting Debian and getting the server version of Debian. It'll be much lighter weight. Older machines are great for servers. It's when you get to that graphical user interface that their processors and the RAM they have and the speed of the drive and all that start to become a problem, start to get bogged down.
All right.
So Debian LTS, long-term service, that's probably the one you want. And all of these are free, and they're easy to try. You just put it on there. If you don't like it, put another one on.
Yep.
That's what I love about Linux. One of the many things I love about Linux. So what's your other question? Yeah.
I've been using, I have a Seagate 1 terabyte external drive that I've used, that I'm trying to use just for the Linux side of my dual-booted laptop. And I have problems when I'm trying to drag a file to it or take a file off or something. I've got problems with permission. And I'm not sure if it's because I have some time shift files on there or what's happening, and I don't know if it's recent or if I just never tried to play, drag something in and drag it out.
I'm going to be getting this question a lot more in the future because the new Mac OS Catalina is getting really locked down on permissions. Permissions come from the notion that there may be more than one person using an operating system. So, when you were using DOS or Windows 3, there was no presumption that it was a multi-user operating system. In fact, you could bypass the login, you could do anything you want. But Linux, Mac OS, and as we get more sophisticated with Windows, all of these are really designed to be multi-user, which means different people might own files, right? And you shouldn't be able to touch somebody else's files. So the permissions are there to protect you. And modern operating systems have, even if you're the only one using them, have multiple users. Some of them have administrative or root privileges. Some of them are user privileges, lower level privileges. Some of them are just for printers. And the reason is that's more secure. So understanding the permission system of your operating system is kind of an advanced level topic. But once you start running up against this, and again, and Catalina, the next Mac OS, I'm going to be getting this call nonstop in a month because you can't even change the downloads folder. You can't even change the documents folder unless you explicitly give the program permission to do so. And that's going to become a real nightmare. I can't wait. But it's more secure. So you can, as an administrator, and I presume you have an administrative account, you can take control of anything. You can say, no, that's my file, or I want write permissions on that file. You can give yourself permissions. But this is a much longer, more elaborate conversation than I have time for. But this is something you need to learn about. You need to learn about your operating system, what restrictions it places. Usually folders that are designed for the system and for the operating system only won't give you access to those folders. That's as it should be, because if you have access, so does malware. It also is possible for bits to be flipped when a file's copied and you lose rights to it, just as a bug, but you can always correct that. If you want to get into this, read up on the permission system of your operating system, and then, right-click on a file and get info, or in Windows it's called properties, and you can actually drill down on the properties of a file, and you see what those file permissions are. It'll be under the security tab on Windows, and you could see who owns this file, who has access to this file, who can modify this file. Those are the permissions. There's read, write, and execute permissions. And then now Windows has even more. They have some other permission systems. It's gotten very elaborate for Windows, more so than Unix and Linux, oddly enough. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Max is next in West LA. Hello, Max.
Yes, hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. My wife has an iPhone 7, which she loves, and I just read an article in the Chicago Tribune that they did a test for the radiation that's coming out of them, of several phones. And on that particular phone, the 7, it came out double whatever the maximum is allowed by the government, the FCC. Are you familiar with any of this research that's been done?
No, I'm looking up the article right now. Testing cell phones for radio frequency. Now, the FCC, and I've been to the lab where they do this in Washington, they test cell phone and all sorts of device radiation, but they test cell phone radiation in a unique way. They have a life-sized hollow mannequin which they fill with a gel that is supposed to respond like human tissue.
That's the way they described it in the article.
Yeah, and then they have sensors in this gel, and then they have a robotic arm that moves the phone all around. So, yeah, the Tribune paid for these tests according to and used federal guidelines. So now remember, Apple did get, of course, FCC approval for the iPhone 7.
That's the conundrum of this because she loves it so much. Now I'm afraid to have her use it. The 7. Specifically, they mentioned the 7.
And I'm sure the FCC will look at it. I'm reading the article right now. Here's something, and I don't know if they mention this in the article. No, they don't. They merely talk about the FCC's limits and that it exceeds the limits.
But there
is an ongoing, well, they do mention an ongoing debate about the risks posed by radio frequency. And this is
all cell phones.
It's in all cell phones, but this is the larger issue. The radiation coming off of a cell phone is of the non-ionizing kind. That's a term used by biologists to describe radiation that can be harmful to human cells, ionizing, or not, non-ionizing. Cell phones have been around and in the market and used and pressed to people's heads and kidneys and every other part of their body for more than, the iPhone came out 12 years ago, and we've been using cell phones, even more powerful cell phones with external antennas for 30 years. And the number of brain cancers, which is one kind of cancer one would expect to increase if this is a problem, has actually gone down in 30 years, not up, globally and in the U.S. So
I shouldn't worry.
I would not worry. In my opinion, and I'll talk about the contrary opinion, but in my opinion, there's no danger posed by these, and I certainly don't worry about it. And the good news is we're using phones as a phone less and less. We're pressing them to our head less and less. However, there's no evidence that it's dangerous. The World Health Organization and some scientists say, well, just in case, maybe it is, just in case use it less, but no one's ever shown any evidence that it is. Here's what the director of the FDA wrote. He's also director of the FDA's Center for Devices and Radiological Health. He wrote this to the FCC. The available scientific evidence to date does not support adverse health effects in humans due to exposures at or under the current limits. However, what about higher than the current limits? And you could argue that, most of these phones are compliant, so this epidemiological evidence that there's no increase in brain cancer doesn't apply to, say, an iPhone 7. It's a little strange that Apple, did they change how they're manufactured? Was the original FCC test incorrect? How did Apple get certified? I don't know.
I don't know if you saw this in the article, but they said that they tested the iPhone 8 Plus, I believe, and they said that had minimum below FCC.
Here's what I would point out. They only tested in each case one phone. Now, if a phone has been dropped, if a phone has been damaged, Absolutely. The shielding could be damaged. The frame could be bent in such a way that more gets out. So they even say this testing was not meant to rank phone models for safety. In most cases, just one device was tested. So it's, and the FCC tests many devices to get their ratings. So it could be that the phone they tested was some reporter's phone he dropped 5 times. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot. I would, if I were you, I wouldn't worry.
Well, that's a relief.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of evidence. And if you're slightly worried, there's a new iPhone coming out in 2 weeks. And you know what? Honestly, your wife's due.
Well, yeah, I know.
Her phone is a few years old.
People get used to things. Just
I
like
know.
I'm talking to you now on an iPhone SE, which I will never part with.
Oh, the SE is great, but you had the advantage. The SE is more up to date than her 7. It's the iPhone 5 body, but it's got iPhone 10 guts. So you have a more up to date phone and a tiny body, but you like the tiny body.
Yeah, and I also bought a second one that I can use after this one dies. So.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's good that they did the test. They did test. It says several iPhone 7s because of the pilot test. So, I don't know. I think this is a 3-day-old article. I would expect Apple would respond, and more importantly, I expect the FCC would respond.
I think it said in the article the FCC was going to reduce some of their tests, but that
redo them. Yeah, let's see if there's an issue.
The government, so who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I know. And honestly, we're a capitalist society, so these companies often get a little bit of a pass.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I don't know. It is an interesting issue. I'm glad you brought this to my attention because I'm going to bookmark it and bring it up at our next Mac show.
Cool.
Apple officials declined to be interviewed and requested the Tribune put its questions in writing. And when they did, Apple did not respond to those either. That's so Apple.
Yeah, and meanwhile, these poor people in China are making them and committing suicide.
Yeah.
What a world.
What a world is right. And yet, these things are hideously useful. Gosh, if you can't trust the FCC tests, I don't know what you can trust.
Yeah.
A lot of what the FCC tests for, in most cases, is interference to other devices. But at least with phones, they do test to compare it to. Yeah, they've got I'm seeing the robot and the whole thing. Yeah, this is good. Good for the Tribune for doing this. The Tribune doing this. This is really interesting. Yeah. But again, the most important thing is that there is no evidence after decades of use now that cell phones cause problems.
Which is very reassuring to me.
Yeah, I agree.
On behalf of my wife.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, you don't want anybody to get cancer.
No.
All right, thank you. I got to run.
Thank you. Have a pleasant afternoon.
You too. It'll be Jeffrey in Burbank, California. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hey, Leo. Great to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Hey, I got a new Surface Pro, one of those laptop pads.
Yeah.
And I'm using it for work.
Nice.
And I use it on the road. I'm a desktop guy, so this is a transition for me. So I'm using it on the road, long days. And I'm wondering, is there some kind of an external power pack that you could recommend that I could use for that and maybe my iPhone too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great.
So the problem is that a laptop like your Surface likes a lot of wattage. I can't remember, but I'm guessing that the Surface Pro's power supply, and you can read this on the power supply, is probably 80 watts, 85 watts. Mm-hmm. Nothing's more than 100 watts because you can't get on an airplane with that.
Oh, okay.
And now the Surface, Microsoft kind of won't let go of this silly Surface charging connector, but I think your modern Surface Pro will also charge via the Type-C port. Is that correct?
Boy, that's news to me.
So that's what you're going to need, because otherwise you have this weirdo connector, right?
Okay, right, exactly.
So that's the first thing to see is if you plug it into the wall with a Type-C connector. My Surface Go charges via Type-C. It has both the Windows Surface connector and the Type-C port will charge.
Oh, okay.
So that's the first thing to know. Then you want to get a power pack that will put more juice in than the Surface is using. Because if the screen's on and it's drawing 45 watts of power and you have a 25-watt power supply, that's still going to drain the battery. Slower, but a little bit. So either you're going to turn it off and it'll be very slow to charge, and that will work, by the way. Or you're going to get a device that offers more juice. I use a battery pack from Mophie that I really like that does, in fact, is intended to charge this kind of device. It has a little more wattage. So there's two things you want. You want a battery that's big enough to hold enough juice. If it's only, got 3,000 milliamp hours, it's not going to charge up your full battery. You have probably in there a 5, 6, 7,000 milliamp hour battery. So you need something that's got enough juice to fill up the battery on your laptop. And then, so that's part one, and then enough thrust. I don't know how else to describe it. Enough wattage. So this from, in high school when they teach you energy, they teach you that there's amperage, and then there is voltage, and they compare one to the amount of water and the other to the pressure of water. The pressure of the water is the key here, that it has enough wattage to keep up to charge your device. So you're going to look for a high wattage, high voltage charger, both. Great. And then let me give you the name of the one that I use.
Sure.
It is the Mophie. Oh, I'm looking through my Amazon shopping list here to see if I can find it.
But we all do.
Yeah, because I can't remember the exact name. No, not Mophie. I'm sorry. I typed it's. Did I tell you Mophie? I meant Anker.
Anker?
Anker, Anker. They make really great. And the one I have is called the Power Core.
Power Core.
And it has 20,100 milliamp hours. That's a lot.
Oh, wow.
It comes with a 30-watt charger. So you can plug it in, 30 watt, that charges it up pretty fast. And it will deliver using PD, which is the Type-C power specification. It'll deliver fairly high wattage to your laptop. And while it may be slower than plugging into the wall, it'll allow you to continue to use your Surface while you're on a train or a plane and that kind of thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This sounds just
I think it's 24 watts. I would like to see one that does more watts, honestly. But to me, this is the biggest one. But Anker makes really good stuff. So if you find an Anker that has more wattage, get it.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, but that's what you need. Something with a lot of juice in the battery pack so it can charge it all the way up, and enough wattage, pressure down the line to fill up your laptop in real time. Let's see. Here's a 30-watt one, which is the Power Core. That has 26,800 milliamp hours. Thank you, Scooter X. And here's one from Compter in our chat room. He also got it on Amazon. And he says, this is enough to charge my laptop. It's from ZMI. It looks a lot like the Anker that I use. And it also is a high capacity, 20,000 amp hours. And let me just see what the wattage is, because that's what you really want. You want high wattage in order to charge your device. It'll have a Type-C cable that comes off of it. If you certainly want USB power delivery, that's going to give you the most wattage over the Type-C cable. He says this is enough to keep my laptop charged, so that's pretty good. I don't see the wattage on this one. It runs $70. That's typical for these. I like Anker because I know the brand. It's a good company, good quality products, and I've been buying a lot of them. So now the chat room is saying voltage is pressure, amperage is flow. Okay. And watts is pressure times flow, right? It's voltage times amperage. So you want pressure and flow. You want them both. You want a lot of juice, and you want it high pressure so that you get high wattage so that your laptop charges instead of discharges while you're using it. And watts is gallons? No, now I'm confused. This was high school. That's a long time ago. Long time ago. Voltage is the pressure. Amperage is the flow. And watts equals volts times amps. Dr. Morbius is really getting on my nerves. He says amperage is flow rate in coulombs per second. Oh, thanks. That really helps. 8888 Ask Leo. Guess who's coming? Gizwiz, the Gizwiz. Dick DiBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. He usually joins us with a crazy gizmo or gadget. One of the last things he showed was this neck fan. I bought 2 of them. Not a good idea. So I'm just warning you. Listen, but don't buy. Dick DiBartolo, Mad's maddest writer, coming up just around the corner. 8888 Ask Leo. I think we'll have time for 1 or 2 calls right after that. Oh, and resistance. Oh, yeah. Resistance? Resistance is futile. No, that's not right. I'm going to get an F. You set my lips on fire. Not normally something you want to have happen, but Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Dick DiBartolo, I bet he set his mustache on fire once or twice. He's Mad's maddest writer. And the Gizwiz. Hello, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
I love it when you come on. You bring disco with you wherever you go.
I have a shoulder boombox.
Yeah.
And my neighbors don't like it.
People don't carry those anymore, do they? Do you see them in New York ever? People carrying around the boombox?
No.
That's kind of a loss because that at least was social. Now everybody's got those little white headphones in their ears and they're dancing to their inner beat, but you can't hear it.
Yeah, no.
It's both good and bad, I guess.
Well, it's better not to hear the noise. Occasionally, someone on a bicycle. Twice this summer, I saw someone with a boombox on a bicycle.
This annoys me. This annoys me. There's motorcycle riders around here. They have a very loud Harley to begin with, and then because their Harley is so loud, they have to turn the radio up really loud. And it's like the circus came to town.
Yeah, I know.
I said, "What's that in the distance? Is the ice cream truck coming? Is the circus here? Where's the elephant? Oh no, it's just some guy in a Harley."
Yeah, I've had cars drive by and my windows vibrate.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a little loud.
Mr. DiBartolo joins us every week to share a fun gizmo or gadget he has found.
Okay, now my thought about this is you're going to be down the middle or hate it. I'm not quite sure. But you will be among one of the first to be able to buy one. Ooh. Okay. Oh. All right, so you know about DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Do you know about DrinkWorks?
No.
Okay. All right. DrinkWorks is an automated bartender that uses drink pods to make drinks.
This is like the Juicero. Do you remember the Juicero?
You know, but that just made juice.
Yeah, this was a famous Silicon Valley dopey. It was $1,000 juicer.
Yes.
It was beautifully engineered. Really, really nice engineering.
Giant gears, stainless steel.
But you had to use their special packs. You know what was in the packs? Frozen juice. All the juicer did was squeeze the pack. $1,000 to squeeze the pack.
Well, this is more complicated than that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
This was developed by Keurig and Anheuser-Busch.
Oh, it's from Keurig, the coffee pod people.
The coffee pod people,
okay. They haven't
and
filled up enough landfill yet, huh? All right.
So
you get, wait a minute, you get Keurig pods with alcohol in them?
Yes.
What?
They currently have 20 drink pods. And I had what did she make me?
I should get
Russian
this for the
mule.
Office. I love,
okay.
I love Moscow mules. I love those.
Only available in 2 states, and the 3rd state that will get it in April is California.
Then I can guarantee we will have one in the office.
Okay.
Not from me, but I know our staff.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it cools the drink to the temperature required by the recipe.
Oh, that's nice.
Your phone will tell you exactly what the device is doing, how many.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are now carbonating your drink if the drink requires
They'll carbonate
carbonation.
It? Oh, man.
Whatever you want, pal. Well, wait a minute. So it's $400. And drinks are roughly $4. They are packaged in drink pods. No, I don't think it's
what it
bad.
costs
Because
you at a bar.
there's no tipping.
So they have, I'm looking, they have a White Russian, which honestly, if you don't know how to make a White Russian, you don't need a machine to make a White Russian. But okay. Cosmo, okay, maybe a little skill. Old-fashioned, yes. Cuban daiquiri, now that's a hard drink to make. Whiskey sour, Long Island iced tea. That's basically whatever you got in the bar. You just pour it in the glass and drink it.
How about mojitos? They're kind of
They're hard. You got to muddle the mint. But do they muddle mint? No, I don't think this machine is a mint muddler.
I'm not. I think there's a mint muddler option, but I don't think that it's being
called Dennis
in the price.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
Do they have beer too? They have beer.
They have a couple of beers. Exactly.
Beck's,
exactly.
Bass,
That's why the Anheuser-Busch probably came in and said, "All right, we're in on this, but we need beer."
How big are the pods? I mean, is it the size of a Keurig pod? Because that's not much of a drink.
A little bit bigger. It's bigger.
So they're small drinks.
Yeah.
How many ounces? It's a few ounces.
I think it was 5 ounces. Does that sound right?
That's probably good.
It said pretty much what you would get in a bar.
A cheap bar.
Yeah. Well, in New York City, I went to a bar, Midtown, and drinks were $21.
What?
Yes.
Do they
at the Algonquin?
Oh, the Algonquin. That's why you're going to a historic.
21.
That's crazy.
A beer at the Boat Basin Cafe is $8.50.
Jeez. So maybe this is a good idea. Stay home and get drunk on your own time.
Well, to put one out on the street, charge $7. You can make it back in a couple of months.
Stella Artois cider, which I'm a cider fan. They have red sangria, peach sangria. You know what I want? Look, keep your eye peeled for this. Paul Thurrott, who does our Windows Weekly podcast.
Yeah, I know Paul.
Yeah, Paul's a great guy. Paul has a thing that I'm not sure this is a good thing or bad thing, but he swears by it. He loves rosé wine slushies. So you get one of those slushy machines. It's ice. It makes a
yeah.
But instead of putting a soft drink in there, you put rosé wine, and he says it's fantastic.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah. So keep your eye peeled for a rosé wine slushy maker.
Pod. Oh, okay.
No, I don't think they have pods for that.
Okay.
And I think he wants more than 4 ounces too, knowing Paul.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, this is an interesting.
Anyway,
Well, you think this will do well?
I think it might. That they had a terrible time with Keurig Cold. The machine that came out.
Oh, they've tried this before.
Well, Keurig Cold, it was ridiculous because the machine was $400. A drink was like $1, but all it did was make
seltzer,
like Coca-Cola.
Right. You get a soda stream for less than that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This, if you're having a party, you can say to people, "What do you want? I have 20 kinds of drinks here."
Right.
I think this has a good chance of making it.
In our chat room, Mandy the Clown, I think, found the natural market for it, which is a hotel instead of a mini bar.
You know what? That's
a lot of hotels have Keurig coffee makers now. This would be a great thing.
You know what? That is a great thing.
Yeah, I bet you'll sell a lot of them to hotels.
I think there you go. There you go.
If you want to know more, go to gizwiz.biz. That's Dick's site. gizwiz.biz. Click the tech. GizWiz visits the Tech Eye button. And then we're coming up to the end of the month here. Is it almost done for the What the Heck Is It contest?
Yeah, August 31st. It ends.
So you gotta go to his site, gizwiz.biz, click the What the Heck Is It button, identify what is an incredibly obvious gadget, to be honest.
You have one of these, right?
I think I have several of them. I know exactly what this is.
Oh, okay.
I use this to keep people out of my off my sofa.
Oh. Okay.
And it works quite well.
I think you have a couple at the bottom of your new hot tub.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, when I'm gone and the kids are in town, I just put these in the hot tub. And
there you go.
Yeah. So if you know what it is, all you got to do, actually, even if you don't know, is go to gizwiz.biz, send them your best funny or correct answer, and you could win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine, which is nice. And then in a couple of weeks, September 1, brand new one, right?
That's correct.
That'll be fun. Thank you, Dickie D. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Big Pee Wee, our musical director spinning the discs, to our phone angel, the wonderful Kim Schaffer, taking your calls. But thanks most of all to you, all of you who called and all of you who listened. Couldn't do a show without you. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time, okay? I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy, and you know what I always say? Have a great geek week. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.